our attendees.
Should I do attendance and then you'll read that? Okay.
Yeah, our attendees are coming in, so just give it a moment, because they come in one at a time.
You don't want me to take roll call?
Right, yeah, why don't you start with attendance while they're coming
Yeah,
in?
that's something. Susanna Aaron,
Here.
Natasha Avanesians,
Here.
Akila Asqui, William Benesh. I thought I saw you there.
Here.
Okay. Keen Berger. Keen. Okay. Carter Booth,
Here.
Katie Bordenaro. Okay. Anita Brandt,
Here.
Amy Brenn is here. Rich Cacapolo,
Here.
Ritu Chatri,
Here.
Valerie De La Rosa,
Here.
John Paul DeVerna,
Here.
Chris Dignas.
Here.
Oh, sorry, let me turn off my phone. Bob Ely,
Here.
Mara Fitzgerald,
Here.
Stella Fitzgerald,
Here.
Cormac Flynn's gonna arrive late. Susan Gammy,
Here.
David Gruber, Wayne Kawadler,
Here.
Susan Kent,
Here.
Ryder Kessler,
Here.
Janine Kiley,
Here.
Ivy Kwan Ars,
Here.
Patricia Laria,
Here.
Michael Levine,
Here.
Janet Liff,
Here.
Edward Ma,
Yes, here.
Matt Metzger,
Here.
Dan Miller,
Here.
Mustafa Osman, Juan Osorio.
Here.
Okay, got you. Brian Pape,
Present.
Donna Raftery,
Here.
Lois is absent. Lois Ratcliffe is absent with notice. Bo Riccobono,
Bo is on my phone is saying he can't unmute, and I'm not sure why, but
okay.
he's here, so I should
Okay.
jump in for him.
Can he just put it into the chat? That would be great. Zach Roberts is coming late. Robin Rothstein.
Here.
Here.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Rosia Sands,
Present.
Shirley Secunda,
Here.
got, okay. Kristen Shea,
Here.
Frederica Siegel,
Here.
okay. Dr. Shirley Smith is absent with notice. Shanat Spence, Susan Wittenberg,
Here.
okay. Anthony Wong,
Here.
okay. Cheryl Wu,
Here. Here.
okay. Eugene Yu,
Here, and I also want to note that Zachary Roberts is here.
oh, he is here. Okay, great, perfect. Okay, I'm sorry, he's leaving early. I'm sorry. Okay, Adam Zeldin,
Here.
okay. I'll just go back again. Akila Asqui, Keen Berger, Katie Bordenaro, David Gruber,
Here.
Katie Bordenaro here.
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Got you. Mustafa Osman. And Shanat Spence. Okay. That's it.
Wonderful. Welcome to the CB2 full board meeting for March 2023. I just wanted, we had up on the board just some ground rules for the evening. Just wanted to remind everyone that when during the public session, you had to sign up by 5 o'clock. and we'll be calling names during the public session. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. When we have elected officials present, they'll have approximately a total of 7 minutes, 5 minutes to speak or less, and the balance with Q&A. Only board members can ask questions. The chat is for sharing information. Please try to keep it civil, but if you have a question, and the chat will obviously close during the business session. We have a big meeting tonight. So I want to just welcome everyone to our meeting. And I put in the chat the link to the full board package and the February minutes. So the next part of the evening is our public session. I'm going to turn it over to First Vice Chair Susan Kent, who will take us through the public session. Thank you, Susan.
Great. Thank you, Janine. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public session portion of our meeting. As Janine mentioned, all of our speakers will get 2 minutes each. We have a timer on the screen to assist you. When I call your name, please raise your hand. This will enable us to identify you and elevate you to panelist. We request that if possible, please have your camera on so that we can see you. And after each speaker, there will be an opportunity for board members and board members only to ask questions of the speaker. Okay, we have approximately, I think we have 15 speakers this evening. Let me read out the first couple of names. And if you, as I said, if you hear your name, please raise your hand. Ali Margolis, Allison Gerson, Yuna Choi, Susan Lewis, and Ashley Maynard Alpin. Okay.
Looks like some of the people are in the conference room.
In the conference room. So if you're one of the people in the conference room, before you start speaking, please state your name and the topic on which you're speaking for the record. Is Ali Margolis one of those people?
I don't see her in the online attendees.
Oh, she may be one of the people in the conference room, however.
Hi, so there's one of the folks in the conference room here.
Okay. Ms. Margolis, whenever you're ready, you can begin. Or
Looks
not.
like the audio is not working great.
Or
Okay.
not.
It's muted. It's muted.
It's muted, yeah.
Oh, yes, it's muted. There you go.
Mark, if it doesn't work for talking, can you bring them into your office?
Or perhaps they can join the webinar by the.
And Ashley Maynard Alpin.
But then we'll go. Okay, we do have one person that we elevated, who's separate. What is his name? Please raise your hand again, just so you pop to the top if you had signed up to speak. Yeah, so well, in addition to Edward and dog advocates, there was another person.
Okay, sure.
Matt Latessa, are you, did you sign
Yes,
up?
Allie's my colleague and she's unfortunately unable to attend tonight. So I'm able to speak on her behalf if that's permissible.
Okay, what since you're speaking, since you're taking her 2 minutes, why don't you just go ahead and start?
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. The topic of which I'm speaking about tonight is access to higher education. My name is Matt Latessa. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at the New York University School of Professional Studies. And one of the, this issue is something I'm quite passionate about because as we've seen, you know, access to higher education for low-income students and people of color is often, you know, not as attainable as rates for others. And so what has really got me excited about the opportunity to speak tonight is any potential opportunities for public-private partnerships to increase the access to higher education, not just traditional four-year bachelor's programs as the high school to college pipeline normally goes for all of our wonderful New York city teenagers. Sometimes that route isn't quite often the best route. And so as we are discussing throughout this event and further events, one of the things that I'm very interested in hearing about and learning about and getting more engaged with is the way that not just public institutions can increase access to non-traditional and degree completion and industry training type of programs, but the ways that the public sector and the private sector can engage to create these opportunities for students. Here at the School of Professional Studies, we have two programs that provide these kinds of pathways to the folks that are looking to pursue industry training and degree completion programs while pursuing higher educational opportunities. With 20 seconds left, I'll give the rest of that time back. So thank you very much for your time. And I would love to chat with anyone who's interested in such endeavors.
Great, thank you. I do not see any questions from the board. So let me then go to if either Allison Gerson, Una Choi, or Ashley Alpin is ready to speak or able to speak.
Both Una and Ashley are in the room and we're talking about the same topic. So by our 2 minutes to
Unfortunately, you are not intelligible.
Hey, Mark, can you bring the speakers into your office? I know it's less than ideal. Perhaps so they can hear. Can they?
You bet. Right, I'll do it right now.
Yeah.
What I will do then is read off the next group of names and then we will circle back to these people.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Adam Root, Jacqueline Root, Rebecca is it Irizarry? And let's see, who else have I got here? Patty Ratchford and Hope Lappin. Do
I
we
see
have
Hope.
any? Okay.
Welcome to my little hole.
no.
Okay.
Let us know.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
I'm
Seat.
Thank you. Do you mind if I take my mask off?
I don't.
Okay. Should I speak now? Hi, my name is Una Choi, and Ashley is here as well. We're talking about the same topic, which is off-leash hours for our dogs in the morning in Washington Square Park. So for the past few months, a small group of owners have been gathering in the early mornings in Washington Square Park in one of the fields to let our dogs play and frolic, and it just has gradually become where the dogs are off leash. And the reason why this is important to us is I think most of you or a lot of you are dog owners, and they are members of our family, and we want them to have nice fresh air and time to be dogs and play off leash. And what's happened is that since the pandemic, there are way more dogs now than there ever has been. And it's really too many dogs in the morning to fit in the designated dog run. And so it's just kind of naturally happened that the dogs are off leash in one of the yards. And what we would like is that we could have those off leash hours in the morning, which currently is not allowed in Washington Square Park, but is allowed in a number of other parks. And we have spoken to the parks administrator, the council people, and they have said that you are the people that we need to talk to in order to kind of expedite this process. So, I mean, I can talk about this topic for 10 minutes, honestly, but we're just going to wrap that up. That's just, we don't know what the process is to get that done, but we are willing to go through that.
Okay, yes. Okay, thank you very much. And no, you cannot talk about it for 10 minutes, but we do have people, we do have board members with questions. Susanna, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Can you tell me what the mechanism is for ensuring that when dogs are off leash, that people are being vigilant about cleaning up their waste? Because my paltry experience with it is that a lot of dogs running around ends up with a lot of poop underneath my feet. So what's the
That is a
mechanism?
great question. And what we would say is that in the very early mornings, the dog owners are as invested in the park, in the welfare and the maintenance of the parks. We spend more time there than just about any other group. And so, you know, we don't want our dogs running around in waste at all. And so we're actually quite aware of dogs who are maybe barking too loud, or if there's waste, or if there's any sort of poor behavior. We have spoken with the head gardener, and he just requested that the dogs stay out of planted areas, but that on the lawn it's actually quite all right. And again, the reason why we did that is we are as concerned about the condition and the quality of the park as just about anyone. We spend more time there than really, especially in the mornings. In the early mornings, it's really just the dog people and then another group that is on the west side of the park. I'll just leave it at that. And I think the happiness of the dogs really invite other people. The group is a buffer for any sort of other populations that want to come into the park in the early morning.
Thank you. Susan Wittenberg.
Hi, maybe I didn't hear you, but can you specify exactly what the early morning hours are?
Again, it's generally from 7 to 9, and we are aware that in other parks that there is an off-leash allowed time before 9 a.m. And that's really all we're requesting, not a designated another designated area for dogs for all day. That's not what we're requesting. It's just everybody is trying to get their dogs walked before work. And
Can
so
you give us a sense of number of dogs?
Sure.
I have a dog. I'm not being hostile. I just want to get the information.
Sure. So right now it's probably anywhere from 15 to 30 dogs in the morning. And that's a low number because in the past few months we have been.
This is the off leash or the dogs in the dog runs?
No, this is off leash in the fields. And the reason why is because, and that's a little bit of a low number just because the rangers are coming out to ticket everyone. Every day this past 2 weeks when the dog run was actually closed for the regrading, the rangers were out every morning ticketing people. And that's all actually, the only thing we want really is to not be ticketed. That's really it.
And I just want to jump in. I think we should use this time to hear from all the people who signed up to speak. And this, if it warranted, it probably would make sense for us to go into the weeds on this at a future Parks Committee meeting. But I'm going to stop from there. There were more questions though.
Yes, we do have, okay, Ivy, your hand went up and down. I guess yes, Ivy, please go ahead.
Oh, there were other people as well.
But their hands are not raised right now.
So I just wanted to ask about safety. I mean, you know, I have a dog right here, but you know, the safety is, I think, like starting 8 o'clock, children walk through the park as well. So that's, you know, how to address that.
100%. I mean, you know, again, the owners are self-policing. We don't want to be kicked out. So we're very aware of bad behavior. And if there's any sort of conflict with the dogs, the owners are right on top of it. As far as the children, we're talking about Washington Square Park has about a dozen different lawns. We're on one lawn for a very limited period of time. And so as far as we know, we've had children or parents come by and they just love watching the dogs frolic. It's such a joyful vision in the mornings to start the day, to have something so positive in the park when not everything is positive in the park. To watch the dogs frolic is just wonderful. And so far, I mean, again, we haven't really had problems because the owners are super careful. We self-police because we are aware that this is a privilege. It's not something that is that we feel entitled to. We want to be able to stay. And so we're very careful about who is doing what. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's something I think like when, like Janine said, that when you dive into that, I think that will need to be developed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is we also invite anybody to come by and take a look in the mornings.
Okay.
If we're there, please. We have, we welcome everyone.
Thank you. Now, other people who are with you, is Ashley Alpin with you?
I'm Ashley Alpin.
Okay, did you want to speak as well on this? Or?
I did, yes, thank you.
Please, go ahead.
Sure, I'd just like to elaborate on some of the arguments that my co-constituent here has made. Yes, there has been a pandemic explosion of dogs and there are insufficient dog runs in park areas. Central Park, Prospect Park, some of the bigger parks in the city do have these off-leash hours to help address the space issue. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that, exercise dogs are good dogs. It's when dogs don't have places to go and to get all of that energy out, that's when they can kind of become problems in the community. During the 7 to 9 hours, which are pretty consistent across the other parks, those are times when typically the parks are very underutilized. I've lived in the neighborhood for 6 years. There are very few children, let me tell you, at that time. There are no play groups and nannies. Everyone's getting off to school. And of course, all of the playgrounds in Washington Square Park have lovely fences, to help keep the children safe, not only from dogs, but other kinds of activities that we know are happening in the park, especially in those early morning hours. Having a lot of dog owners is a lot of positive energy in the morning. We're the people who are picking up trash, who are making sure the lawns look good because we enjoy and we love the park. One of the other issues, and I think why we're seeing dogs in parks, not just Washington Square, but some of the other nearby parks that also don't technically allow dogs, is that the Washington Square Dog Run has a very particular kind of surface. It's zeolite. It's almost like a cat litter type substance, and 2 dogs have been hospitalized in the last year from ingesting that substance. It's not a really great or safe environment for dogs, in addition to the crowding issue. So I think there's some, adjacent issues that are pushing people onto the lawn in an organic way. And we could consider not just Washington Square Park, but all of the parks in the village area as opportunities to help address this need among dog owners and to help us be, a productive part of a joyful community. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. I had called previously Allison Gerson or Susan Lewis. Are either of those people with you? If not, I will go on to the next names.
Thanks.
I had previously called Adam Root and Jacqueline Root and Rebecca Inzari and Patty Ratch and Hope Lappin. Hope Lappin did.
Hope is there.
Hope is there. Okay. Since your hand is raised, why don't you go next?
Hi, it makes sense for me to go next because I'm also talking about the dogs. I really will just elaborate also on some of the other things that have been said. We are really kind of just asking that the community board consider this broadly as an issue that needs to be addressed. If the lawn in Washington Square Park is wonderful, but if that won't work, we would like to also consider other solutions. Like a lot of the other like park areas around in the neighborhood that we've all been ejected from at different times, just to consider places that are not being used in the early morning as potential places for us to have off-leash hours for dogs. The more flexibility with it, I think, the better for everyone. The other thing really is that, the Parks Department itself has described, off-leash with options for dogs as being so good for dogs, so good for the community, and also makes the parks safer. There's a 2007 press release that I linked to in the statement that I submitted. And I think that is something valuable to think about, that the Central Park is safer because the dogs are there. I think Washington Square Park is safer right now because in the morning there are a ton of dog people there who are, with each other and, kind of a buffer. So those are other things to think about as well. I'm not going to take all the time because I think you've heard about this issue enough so far. So thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you, Hope. I don't see any questions, and I don't see hands for the other names that I have just called. So let us now go forward, and the next group of people will all be speaking about zero bond and at the SLA 1 resolution in relation to that in that location. Jennifer Murray, Annette Weintraub, Lee Benke, Pete Davies, Renee Monrose, and Margot Margolis. If I've called your name, please raise your hand.
We have Pete on.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, well, let's start with Pete then.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the time. I am speaking about the application of zero bond for a change of method of operation. I'm speaking in opposition to the application as was presented to the board at the SLA 1 committee on March 7th. I do understand that apparently some agreements have been, they've come to some agreement on some of these, but I do want to point out that when this license was issued, the SLA mandated that there would be no alcohol service on the rooftop, and that it was only to be allowed in a structure on the rooftop. That structure has not been built. That structure has not been presented to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, so nobody knows what that structure might be. Noise from outdoor rooftop alcohol service is an ongoing problem in the area, and it causes disruption to quality of life for area residents. And please note that the applicant's building, 670 Broadway, already has noise controls in place connected with the operation of the gym on the lower floors, put in place by the Board of Standards and Appeals when that gym was given approval. It limits noise within the building to 45 decibels. That is because these old buildings transmit noise and it needs to be controlled. Finally, the new method of operation for the outdoor service, DJs in later hours, will only serve the members of the private zero bond club. Although the applicant claims a wide range of support, the applicant will not state how many of those stating support are actually paying members and stand to gain a personal benefit. Based on the above, we urge the CB2 full board to deny the application as was presented Thank you on behalf of Broadway Residents Coalition.
Thank you, Pete. Let's see, I do not see any hands for questions. But I will ask again, are any of the other people whose names that I called, Jennifer Murray, Annette Weintraub, Lee Benke, Renee Monrose, or Margot Margolis? Again, if you hear your name, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we will have to move on.
I did promote Suzanne and Mike Meyer. Are they on that list? They had put in the chat.
Susanna or Mike, no, those names are not on my list. Did they sign up?
They said they did, but I don't have the list in front of me.
Well,
but they're
and they're here to speak on Zero Bond.
Yeah, so why don't we have them speak since they're here?
Okay, since our other speakers have not made it, why not?
Yeah.
So if either of them would please, whenever you're ready, please begin.
You should be able to turn your camera on. I've promoted you. We're promoting you to panelist. Are you okay? Now they're coming. Okay.
Okay. Ah, I see. Okay.
Okay. Suzanne and Mike Meyer, are you ready to go?
Huh.
Okay.
They are still attendees.
Okay.
Will be rejoining. Okay, very good.
Michael McGuigan, who put in the chat.
Another person who did not sign up.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, there's Suzanne. They have their hand up on the screen. All right.
Okay, the Myers, whenever you're ready, please, you can begin. If possible, please also turn on your camera. But if not, just go ahead.
We're going. Can you hear us?
Oh, there's a echo, but we can hear you.
How are we doing now?
Better.
Good. I'll let my wife speak for a moment here. That's Suzanne.
Hi, I don't know if you can see us. Oh yeah, there we go. We live across the alleyway from Zero Bond, and we've lived in the neighborhood for 3 decades and brought our family up there. And it's about 25 to 30 feet across the alley for us. And we understand private clubs. We have no problem with that. But moving a private club into a community that's largely residential and then trying to sort of change the rules of community is problematic. I think if you want to have a club that has an outdoor roof deck with lots of noise, then move into get your private club into Midtown or somewhere where there isn't such a residential and family oriented community. It's one thing if it's a space that's dedicated to many members of the community, but it's not. It's private, it's very expensive, and our building has had a lot of problems with the noise levels there. We have kids who are going to the public schools in the neighborhood, in the building. One of the kids said her organs were vibrating. I mean, I do think there are maybe a compromise of earlier hours to be discussed, but mostly I think there shouldn't be. We think, and I think most of our building members believe there shouldn't be any roof deck outdoors. And I should say that we signed up, Annette Weintraub signed up, Michael McGuigan signed up. A lot of people in our building signed up, and I don't know why it was not registered, but we absolutely signed up. So there was some glitch that happened.
Okay, thank you for informing us. I'm sorry, oh yes, your time is up. Okay, thank you very much. And you said that Michael McWigan
Yes,
also
he
signed.
also signed up. He's our building manager. He's lived there, I think, for 50 years, something.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, sir, what, if you'd like, you can speak whenever you're ready. But you're muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
I got it. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was going to say I was a 40-year resident. I thought 50 sounded too long. Yes, I am speaking in opposition to the application of the NoHo Cultural Society, also known as Zero Bond. And as Suzanne pointed out, I'm a resident in the building. We're right across from the alley from their building. I spoke at the SLA #1, committee, the committee on the SLA. And I made the point that the current application is calling for allowing DJs up to 12 times a year for what I interpret as large private parties for the members. And I noted my surprise at this request because there have definitely been DJs already at Zero Bond on several occasions. Many of the occasions we complained about, and the decibel levels were way above the 45 decibel levels that Pete was mentioning. And when a committee member asked Scott Sartiano, the owner of Zero Bond, about this, he said, and I think I'm quoting, it was a mistake. Now, this is precisely the kind of inattention to detail that I'm very much worried about. I've seen the plans. It's a very open bar rooftop arrangement. There's definitely going to be excessive noise with partiers and music and alcohol. And I don't see how any mitigating soundproofing could be installed once we're complaining. If the application was proposing a sculpture garden or a Zen garden, which was keeping with the Cultural Society as their name implies, I'd have no objection. But I see what's being proposed as a rooftop bar with music, late hours. This is very much a commercial venture. It's not what the neighbors, certainly in the immediate vicinity, like, and I would ask the committee to oppose the application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I see no hands for questions. So since I have called all the people who have signed up and there are no hands that remain, I guess we are finished with public session. And I will turn it back to you, Janine.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you, everyone. We do have in the chat that Darlene Lutz signed up to speak, and I haven't been able to pull up the speaker sign up. So Darlene, shall we?
Oh yeah, she normally does. So
Okay. Let me elevate.
she always has an update for us.
Okay. Is she elevated?
You have to, I just clicked promote. She has to click on it.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Darlene.
Sorry, your technology and mine is kind of messy right now. Let me pull up my notes. Good evening, all. Thank you for the time. I'm Darlene Lutz, the Vice President of the First Precinct Community Council. I'm also a resident since the 1970s in this west corner of Soho. CB2 is served by four police precincts. The first precinct is the oldest and largest precinct in New York City. It covers, though, only a small territory in CB2, from the west side of Broadway to West Street and the south side of Houston down to the north side of Canal. First Precinct Community Council holds a public meeting with the NYPD, our first precinct, the last Thursday of every month. Our next meeting is this is a week from today, Thursday, March 30th at 6 p.m. It will be via Zoom. I don't have that link yet. Please either shoot me an email for the Zoom link or go to the First Precinct Twitter on the 30th for the link. I'll put this in the chat along with my contact info. Um, many of the precincts, including the first, are in the changeover period of commanding officers. This happens about every 2 years. The first precinct is going to be getting a new CO soon. I don't know exactly when. I expect it in a couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to that. We'll miss our current CO, who has really done a terrific job and came on during COVID. So I'd like to give him a special thank you for his time serving Captain Thomas Smith. And that's it. I hope to all see you, come to the meetings. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot about enforcement. I know that's a huge issue for us all. It's a good thing. Thanks again.
Thank you, Darlene. I see no questions. Was there anyone else who, Janine, do you know of anyone else who signed up?
I don't see anything in the chat, so I think we're done.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Right now, I'd like to say, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is adopted. Right now we have we're going to move on to the reports to the public from first the elected officials. We have a number of elected official staffers here. Just to remind you, you'll each have 2 minutes to give an update. I don't think we have any actual elected officials here. If that changes, please let us know. So if you could raise your hand and we will elevate you to panelists, and if possible, if you could turn your camera on. Board members can ask questions. Board members, please ask concise questions if you have any. So please raise your hand if you are, and let's see if everyone could help elevate these speakers, that would be great. We're going to start with Patrice Comerford in Eric Botcher's office. Okay. Pat, are you there, Patrice? Okay.
Everyone whose hand was up has been elevated.
Okay. Okay, who's ready to go? Okay, Biani Rodriguez from Councilmember Rivera's office. Why don't you start it off? Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Biani Rodriguez. I'm from the office of Councilmember Carolina Rivera. As you all know, Carolina had a baby last month, so she is still on maternity leave and should be back in around May. Next week is participatory budgeting vote week, and this is where Carolina allocated $1 million in discretionary funding for community projects, and you all can vote on the projects that you want to see funded next week. The Merchants House Museum is one of the projects in the ballot, and they're also going to be one of our voting sites. So feel free to just stop by next week and vote. We also have a link that you can vote. I'm going to send it in the chat, but please be advised that the link is going to go live on Saturday. So yeah, you won't be able to see anything on it today. If you need more information on what participatory budgeting is, or if you have any questions, I'm going to put my information on the chat, and feel free to reach out.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Biani. Next up, we'll have Ian Wong from Councilmember Marte's office.
Hi, everyone. Just to echo what Biani said, we'll also be doing participatory budgeting next week. So I will be sending a flyer to Mark and Mark can circulate the flyer to everyone. We'll have like paper ballot. We'll also have online voting, either through the city council website or through a Google form, because we know that, the city council website would require you to create an account, which a lot of people don't want to do. And two community update. One is regarding 111 Mott Street, the building that has facade issue and was issued a vacate order by Department of Building. So we have been in contact with most of the tenants. They are able to find alternative place to live as for now, which is great. And the landlord has not been super responsive. So we're also talking to these tenants to see if they can take any legal action against their landlord and move back as quick as possible. We are also aware that there is a burglary situation in that building after it was sealed off. So we're also in contact with the precinct. The second thing is 126 Lafayette Street. The building was going through a permitted demolition process, but unfortunately a wall collapsed during the process, which one worker sadly passed away because of this incident. We have been talking with DOB. They are working with OSHA, and right now they have issued summons to the building owners, and all the works at the site has been stopped. Last thing, the council member has introduced a legislation with a few other council members to tackle the scaffolding issues. It will encourage building owners to take down scaffolding every 6 months. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Ian. I don't see any questions. Let's go to Patrice Comerford with Councilmember Butcher's office.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I just want to say that we are also having the participatory budgeting kickoff this weekend, and you have the link, but as you were told, it doesn't start. You can't use it until Saturday. But we will be in person in Abington Square, depending on the weather on Saturday. We might not be there, but we will be at Westbeth on Sunday. And the following Sunday, we're going to be at the Greenwich Village Little League opening day, which we always look forward to. And probably we'll try to get over to Abington Square that day too. And we have a couple of things on the ballot for the village. We have a water irrigation system at Jane Street, an upgrade for that. For PS3, the auditorium, we have a couple of upgrades, the lighting and the PA system. Also on there is a bathroom renovation for the high school and some water bottle refilling stations at some of the public schools around. So we would love to see you. Just I hopefully we'll see you at the at Greenwich Village Little League. But if it's not raining on Saturday, we'd love to see you over at Abington Square or on Sunday at Westbeth. And I don't have the any other updates. Nicole is on vacation this week, so she'll bring the updates to you next time she's here. But thanks again. Great to be here.
Thank you, Pat. Next up, we have Carolyn Wexelbaum from Senator Hoylman Siegel's office.
Hi, I'm Caroline Wexelbaum. I'm from Senator Hoylman Siegel's office. I just pasted a link to our board report in the chat. I wanted to provide a few updates on what's been happening in Albany. As many of you know, we're actively negotiating the New York State budget, which is due April 1st. Last week, the Senate Democratic majority passed what's called their One House budget resolution. The Assembly passes something similar, and it's essentially the Senate's response step in the budget process before we vote on the final budget. So some highlights in the Senate One House budget included in affordable housing. The Senate supports adding $389 million for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or ERAP. We included support for tenant protections that align with the core principles of good cause of eviction. We support investing $280 million for universal school meals, and we rejected SUNY and CUNY tuition hikes. We supported raising the minimum wage, increasing access to childcare, implementing the landmark Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, rejecting MTA fare hikes. So there's a lot of stuff, and it's there's a lot in our board report. I hope that folks have a chance to read it. Switching the subject for a second, we were hoping folks could nominate a woman of distinction and a veteran to the Senate Veteran Hall of Fame. Each will be honored by the state Senate. It's an annual event. The deadline for both of those is April 5th. So in our board report, there's a link for how to nominate someone. And then finally, Senator Hoylman, although we've been around for a while, we have a new community survey, and it will take about 5 minutes. We just want to know what folks are thinking, what your priorities are. I'm going to paste that link in the chat, and that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it looks like we don't have any questions. Thank you for
Wonderful.
joining us. And everyone, fill out that survey while you're sitting on the call.
Thanks, Janine.
We'll stay on the Senate. Stacy Johnson from Senator Kavanaugh's office. Stacy?
Yeah, hi, Stacy here from Brian Kavanaugh's office. Thank you, Caroline. You kind of did a lot of the, updates from Albany, the one house budgets and the countdown now to the final budget. The really important negotiations going on right now, but obviously the things can change every day. So we don't have a lot to report on what's happening in the negotiations. But the goal is that it's done by April 1st. I'll just tell you a few things that Senator Kavanaugh is really pushing for, things that he's really passionate about, and that is the housing access voucher program, as well as a good cause eviction, the All Electric Buildings Act. So some of those things we worked on last year, and the senator's obviously working really hard on again this year. And as the chair of the Housing Committee, he's really involved in all the conversations around housing, because that's a really big issue right now with the budget. Also, part of the negotiations are to try to get some money for houses and homeowners to fix the lead, to do lead renovations, both for paint, but also in the water lines, so in the service lines. So that's another thing that Senator Kavanaugh is really pushing to try to include in the budget. And then, the local thing is the budget could also end up including a repeal of the tax subsidy that Madison Square Garden gets. So that's another thing that's in the works, and may or may not happen when the final budget comes out, but those are things that are being talked about and that the senator is passionate about. And I'll put my info in the chat.
Thank you very much, Stacy, and thanks for joining us today. Next up, we have Roy Ruiz from for Assemblymember Glick's office.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Roy Ruiz. I'm the Community Affairs Liaison for Assemblymember Deborah Glick. I really have two things because right now, as has been mentioned before, they're working on the budget and it's really busy in Albany, and Deborah's spending a lot of time up there. Tomorrow, she's having a press event with Assemblymember Grace Lee and other elected officials and community groups and preservation groups to talk about the lifting of the FAR, which we oppose. We don't think it's going to generate the amount of affordable housing that we really need. So tomorrow we're going to have a press event in front of 250 Broadway at 10 a.m. So if anybody wants to join us, you're welcome to. And the second thing is that every year the state legislative women's Women's Caucus honors notable women from around the state. And this year, Deborah would like to honor Noreen Doyle, who is the president of Hudson River Park, for her stewardness of the park for the last 30 years, even before it was a park in 1998. And then she became CEO of the park in 2021. So those are two things. I'm including a link in the chat that will lead to the report, and you guys can read a little bit more on her thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy. We have one question from Adam Zeldin.
Yeah, thanks. What is she consulting with academics on the question of effective solutions to the housing affordability crisis and the housing crisis? I guess, what's the basis for that position?
Well, that's a question more for Charles Leduc, who is her legislative director, and they work a lot more around that. I really just report a lot of what happens to the community, so I don't really have an answer for
Understood.
that.
All right, we'll save that question for him.
If you would like to send me an email, I could definitely answer that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good one. Any more questions?
No, looks like it. Thank you very much, Roy.
Okay, no worries. Have a good one. Thank you.
Next up, Samantha Dave from Assemblymember Grace Lee's office. You're her chief of staff, correct?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Samantha Day, and I am Assemblymember Grace Lee's chief of staff. This is my first time on community board too, so thank you all for having me. I'm going to put our office information in the chat so that people can find us. Couple of updates. I know that my colleagues in Albany already talked a lot about the budget. That is our kind of main focus in the next week and possibly in early April until the budget is finalized. I do want to highlight two major priorities that Assemblymember Lee was able to help push to get into the Assembly One House. The first is we were able to secure $385 million in funding for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program for public housing and Section 8 residents. We had a big part in helping push that, so we're really excited that has been accepted. In case people are unfamiliar, this money will be used to pay out applications that have already been accepted, but were unpaid because residents were in public housing or subsidized housing, and under the current rules, residents of public and subsidized housing were left out of the previous EROP funding. We were also able to get $30 million in the One House for the AAPI community groups throughout the state through the Equity Budget Coalition. Assemblymember Lee is the co-chair of the Asian American Pacific Task Force, and so in that position, she helps ensure that the legislature is serving the API community statewide. We were able to get $10 million more than we got last year in the budget, so we're really excited to see how that funding will be able to serve the community statewide. I know that Roy already talked about the press conference that we're hosting tomorrow, so I just want to highlight that again, that that's going to be at 10 a.m. in front of 250 Broadway. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions, so thank you very much. Betsy Schmidt from Representative Goldman's office, and I think you're new to our board, so if you could share your contact information as well. Welcome to CB2.
Hi, I'm actually just filling in for Tevin because he's out this week. So I'm happy to drop my info, but it's really Tevin. I think you all already know him. But I just wanted to provide our district update. So this month, we just kicked off on the 15th, the Congressional Art Competition. And any high school student who lives or goes to school in New York 10 can submit a application with their piece of art, and the winning piece of art will get to hang in the Capitol for a year. So that's going to run until May 1st is the deadline for that. And you can fill out an application online on our website at goldman.house.gov. Another note, so we worked with Congresswoman Velasquez to get the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to extend their deadline for public comment to March 31st. in order to offer constituents more time to review and comment on the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Tributary Study, the recommendations for climate resiliency projects that they've planned for the neighborhood. So we are very excited to get that extended, but so you have till the end of next week if you want to make a comment on that. And then Representative Goldman's also just pushing a bipartisan bill to close the funding gap in the World Trade Center Health Program. It would just help correct a funding shortfall that would help it happen down the line and allow survivors from the Pentagon and Shanksville to be a part of the program as well. Also, as a legislative update, a few things. We're pushing to get the African Burial Ground Museum in Lower Manhattan to make that a center that people could learn more about that there. And we're also fighting big oil profiteering and requesting to reinvest in our communities to help with climate change. So that's just two things. I will put our board report in the comments.
Thank you. We have one question from William Benesh. And great.
Hi, Betsy. Thanks for coming today. I'm really happy to see how engaged Dan is on the resiliency issue. I understand there was a town hall done with CB1. Could you just briefly, in 15 seconds, kind of summarize what that covered?
Yes. So it was about what I just talked about, the resiliency project. So we've been pushing with them. It was, yeah, here's the fun note. So I was there, but I was checking people in at the front. So I didn't actually get to hear it. But it was about the project and the fundings on that. So, but I can make a note and flag that you all would like more information from that and get you a readout from Tevin and the people who were in that meeting and who led it.
Yeah.
If that sounds good.
We've been pretty engaged on the project, but I haven't spoken directly with your office yet. So maybe we should just connect offline on this.
Sounds great. Yes, I will put my information. You can send it to me and I can forward everything to Tevin. So when he's back next week, you all can connect on that. No problem.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Betsy. Kevin Jean-Baptiste from DA Bragg's office, are you still here or did you have to go?
I'm still here, but I'm yielding to Peter since he's our new community.
Okay, so Peter, why don't you
Oh, how are you? Good evening, everybody. So as Kevin said, I'm Peter Say. I am the new community engagement coordinator for Lower Manhattan for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I will be covering community boards 1, 2, and 3, and also the 1st, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 9th precincts. So I look forward to working with all of you. After I'm done, I'll put my contact information in the chat room. My one update announcement to the group is the District Attorney's Summer High School Internship Program, our application deadline, we've extended it to March 28th. I'll also put the link to that information on the chat. That's a great opportunity for anybody you know who's interested in a legal career in the future. So if you know anybody, please let them join, and thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Peter? Okay, no questions. I am surprised. Well, thank you for joining us and thanks for sharing your information. We are going to go, that is it for elected officials reports. So we are going to go to the Borough President's report from Andrew Chang. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Hi, Ginny. I actually posted in the chat that the borough president plans to attend later this
evening.
evening.
He does? Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Okay, well then when he comes, if you could just text me and we'll go from and we'll elevate him.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, so we're going to go to the chair's report at this point, and I just want to think everyone saw. I'm going to start with the boring stuff. We are now going to be virtual through our April board meeting. The city extended the executive order through April 20th, which is the date of our board meeting. Most importantly, there's the community board application deadline is extended until the end of March at 5 p.m. So There's a Friday, March 31st at 5 p.m. There's a few board members, not too many, who still need to apply, but reach out to friends and neighbors and community activists and people who want to get involved in the board. I think that will be encourage them to apply and join community board too. We do have several board members who are not reapplying so there are definitely vacancies on our board. In terms of local issues, you all have, I want to just highlight a couple of really key things in that we will be voting on later tonight. Our education committee had a great meeting with asylum seeker about how to help the asylum seeker families with the District 2 Superintendent Kelly McGuire and PS 130 Principal Rennie Fong and has a resolution on a lot of ways to further help these families, the children and their families. We had I would say a first discussion by our Equity, Race and Justice Committee on tableside racism, and that is when members of underrepresented communities experience disparate treatment at restaurants, bars, and nightclubs, and how do we deal with that? And it was, as a white woman, I get discrimination maybe on the velvet rope lines because I'm not cool enough, but I do not see the discrimination that was almost universally cited by board members and some members of the public. So I encourage everyone who thinks this doesn't exist to talk to your friends, talk to your peers, talk to the people in the CB2 office. It seems that everyone has had some experience, so we can talk about ways to improve that. We love that. I love that Will Benish is on top of resiliency and looking for ways to coordinate downtown and with our federal elected officials, because there's going to be a lot to do on this. And long term, we hope that there will be more than just a wall around the perimeter of our beautiful waterfront. And I will share with board members that there's a census presentation next week. If you like data, which I do, and I'm a data geek, I actually had the old census website bookmarked. There's a census event for not-for-profits, and we'll get that information and share that with everyone. And at this point, this is my last board meeting as chair. So I do want to just thank several people. I want to thank the Borough President's Office. They've been both Tricia Shimamura and Andrew Chang, as well as the entire Human Resources Department, as we went through an 8-month process to hire a new district manager. I want to thank our elected officials who've been so responsive to our community needs. I want to thank the past CB2 chairs, those ones still on the board and those who are retired, for your advice and counsel, both solicited and unsolicited, but mostly solicited. So thank you, everyone. I want to thank the committee chairs and vice chairs and the entire HR committee who've worked tirelessly behind the scenes and on Zoom to plan and manage meetings, research topics, draft resolutions, train new board members, and lots of other work. I want to thank the CB2 officers who I rely on for advice and counsel, and who are always doing a ton of work behind the scenes to make these Zoom meetings work. And it's only going to get more complicated when we go to hybrid. I want to thank the CB2 board members. For those of you who show up to short meetings, the shortest meeting of my term was when I did not chair it, with Susan Kent chaired in November 2021. So you'll be in good hands with her as the next chair. And I thank you everyone for staying for the particularly long meetings, including those 2 meetings we had where we had hundreds of attendees from Chinatown, an area where historically our board has our board has not had a lot of people attending our meetings, and I think it was really important for that community to be heard, and obviously welcome to our board so they continue to come back and participate in CB2. And I want to thank all the board members who challenged me to run better meetings, push me on time limits or lack of time limits, and push back, disagree, create consensus, and most importantly, create a lively public forum. Because that is what makes this board so wonderful. And I want to thank our new district manager, our old district manager, and most importantly, I want to thank the staff, Eva Mai, Francine Lang, and Florence Arenas, who really held down the fort at CB2 when Bob Gormley retired, and Josh moved to a new position, and before Mark Diller started just very recently. So thank you, everyone. I'm grateful for being a member of this board and getting to lead it for 2 years. David?
Janine, I want to give you a shout out, and I think I speak for many people on the board for doing a yeoman's job. We were all aghast at how much time and energy you put into being chair, and I want to congratulate you on a great 2-year run. So good luck. We don't know what you're going to be doing in the future, but I'm sure it's going to be great stuff. So good luck and congratulations, and thank you rather than you thanking us. Okay. Bye-bye.
And because I love this board and everyone pushes back, I'm not going to say who sent me a text, but I do want to, I was reminded that, white women have plenty of discrimination, just less than perhaps other women. We constantly see it. We're referred to as girls. We might be emotional. We are, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't want to diminish, our experience, but I do want to, I'm rarely, unless I have, when my children were small, I was seated in definitely the horrible parts of restaurants, but that's a different situation. I do love this group that constantly pushes back. So thank you. And I'm going to make one more plug while we're sitting here, because we are going to have elections shortly. And I'm going to make one last push for assistant secretary. I have a form. It's a 1-page Word document. It's really easy. You pull it up, you type the minutes while you're at the meeting, you stay engaged, and you're part of the executive committee. So think hard, but not long, because we're coming up with nominations soon in the agenda. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Mark Diller for the DM report.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Chair. And not just because I'm so lucky to have been hired. It's really quite something to see you in action, and how well you run these meetings and are so fair to so many folks. The chair has already mentioned the open meetings law, so I don't need to repeat. I wanted to make a quick push for participatory budgeting and to make a distinction between two things. The council member representatives talked to us tonight about council member participatory budgeting, which is generally speaking capital funding that the council member allocates from his or her member items. And that voting will take place next week. You'll find their flyers in our e-blast tomorrow. There is also citywide participatory budgeting, and it comes in 2 flavors. One is borough by borough, and the allocations are not equal. They are weighted based on the population of the borough and the concentration of poverty in the borough. And there's a second citywide, which targets 33 neighborhoods that were originally targeted by the Task Force on Racial Inclusion and Equity. And the projects are different in these, and the voting for that will be May 1st through June 25th. You'll hear more about it later, but I don't want you to think that you missed the chance or that they're the same thing and you can vote later. So there's 2 different things to be prepared for there. Something just happened. Did I lose you? No. Good. Okay. The election of officers will take place shortly, and there'll be more instructions about that. But you will receive in your email the ballot, or at least those of you who appear as present in the next roll call vote at the beginning of the business session will receive the ballot. I assume that we'll open the floor for nominations for assistant secretary before we send that ballot out. And I'll amend the ballot as on the fly as we do that. We talked about the extension of the application period, and so that's that. So I'm sorry, my Zoom is jumping all over on me here. Other than that, the efforts to revive the CB2 Manhattan domain name are ongoing, and GoDaddy is not our friend in these matters. Anybody who has insomnia and wants to hear the details, I'm happy to share offline. But that's the district manager's report for now, and I look forward to the rest of the meeting, and thank you.
All right. Wonderful. Any questions for, none, no questions for Mark? We are now going to move to our business session. If we could close the chat to attendees and leave it open for panelists, that would be wonderful. And we are going to move, we're going to start with approval of the February minutes. Do we have a motion to?
Janine, don't we have to take attendance before the business session?
Sure. I thought I would take attendance just right before we do the election of officers in case somebody.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's okay. Just
sure.
Have it as precise as possible. Valerie?
Yes, I have a for the February minutes. It does not accurately reflect the work that this group did last month. We spent about 30 minutes on the cannabis licensing about a letter. And so since we voted to send out the letter, I just had a question as to why that vote count was not included in the minutes. So I'd like that to be added back. Even if there's been other action taken, I think it's important that the minutes document the work of the board.
Okay. Ritu, can you make that adjustment?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Valerie.
And I have an additional question, or I'd like to make a motion to formally send that letter back to the committee, since I guess it was announced at executive meeting that it wasn't sent out. So since
okay. We will discuss that during the committee. Yes, can you make that motion when we get to the committee reports?
Yes, there's no cannabis licensing on the agenda.
We'll add it in there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Any other comments on the February minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. As amended, the February minutes, all in favor, say aye.
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 So now we're going to move to the election of officers. And before we do that, we'll have Amy will take attendance. We're going to have nominations for assistant secretary, then speeches, and then voting. Amy, why don't you start with taking the attendance?
Okay. Susanna Aaron.
Here.
Natasha Avanasians.
Here.
Akila Asqui. Will Banesh.
Here.
Keen Berger. Carter Booth.
Here.
Katie Bordenaro.
Here.
Anita Brandt.
Here.
Amy Brennan is here. Rick Tecapolo.
Here.
Ritu Chatri.
Here.
Valerie De La Rosa.
Here.
John Paul DeVerna. Are you there? Are you still here? Okay. If you are, can you put it in the chat? Chris Dignas.
Here.
Bob Ely.
Here.
Mar Fitzgerald.
Here.
Okay. Stella Fitzgerald.
Here.
Cormac Flynn.
Here.
Susan Gammy.
I see her. She's, I think
Yeah.
she's frozen.
She's frozen. Okay,
Here.
great. Thank you, Susan. David Gruber.
Here.
Wayne Kawadler.
Here.
Susan Kent.
Here.
Ryder Kessler.
Here.
Janine Kiley.
Here.
Ivy Kwan Ars.
Here.
Patricia Laria,
Here.
Michael Levine,
Here.
Janet Liff,
Here.
Ed Ma,
Here.
Matt Metzger,
Here.
Dan Miller,
Here.
okay, Juan Osorio,
Here.
Ryan Pape,
Present.
Donna Raftery,
Here.
Bo Riccobono,
Here.
Zach Roberts,
Here.
Robin Rothstein,
Here.
Rosia Sands, Rocio,
Here.
okay. Shirley Secunda,
Here.
Kristen Shea,
Here.
Frederica Siegel,
Here.
Chenault Spence,
Here.
Susan Wittenberg,
Here, thank you.
Anthony Wong,
Here.
Cheryl Wu,
Here.
Eugene Yu,
Present.
Adam Zeldin.
Here.
Okay,
Thank you. At this point, oh, Valerie, yes?
Yes, Amy, did you get my attendance just because I know this is?
yeah, I got you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Anyone's name not called.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I got you. I heard you before.
Thank you.
Miss Chris, I'm sorry, is John Paul DeVerna still here? I'm trying to go through the list of names.
I don't see him on the Zoom list.
Okay, I don't see him either. All right, great.
Okay. So that's the list. We'll send that off to the office. At this point, I'd like to open it up for nominations for Assistant Secretary. You can self-nominate or someone else can nominate you.
It's a great job, folks.
I agree. I've done the job myself. I really think a new board member should jump in. It's such a good opportunity. You really get a great experience and learn so much more about the board.
I can second that.
We have a lot of former assistant secretaries here.
It's a great stepping stone.
The pay is excellent.
And the benefits.
Okay. Do we
It
have any,
leads to world domination, I think.
do we have anyone interested? Okay. I won't be chair, but until we have filled this role, we'll be asking other executive committee members to rotate and take minutes at executive committee meeting until we fill this position. Okay. Can we have a write-in? Okay, well, it looks like we have no nominations. We'll have to do a little bit more recruiting on that. So why don't we start with each of the people running is going to give a brief, short speech since the races are all uncontested. But we'll start with Anthony Wong, who's a treasurer.
Hi, folks. I'm running for treasurer again. Been your treasurer since June 2011. A long time. Same speech as 2 years ago. I pledge to continue to uphold the office of the CB2 treasurer to the best of my ability to oversee the bookkeeping procedures of the board and the responsibility for all fiscal matters pertaining to the board's operating budget, and working together with Mark Diller, the new community board district manager, will present reports to the board quarterly on current allocations, prorated expenditures, and proposed operating budgets for the year. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. I look forward to your vote.
Thank you. And I don't see any questions. Amy Brenna for secretary.
I'm thrilled to be able to serve again as secretary. I've enjoyed working with Janine, and I'm looking forward to working with Susan and Val and Eugene and Anthony, all on the executive committee. Everybody has so much experience, and I'm looking forward to working with you and learning from you. And I promise to do my best to have accurate minutes and work with Mark Diller. We've already started talking about how we might move more away from paper and do more electronic and digital record keeping that will help as older members transition out because of term limits, and newer members take their place so that they can find the information they need and to run their committees and vote. And other kinds of things that Mark and I start talking about, and I'm really looking forward to start talking to Susan about that and move forward. And thank you for voting for me last time, and I'm really pleased to be able to be secretary again for another year. Well, for a year, just been secretary for a couple months.
Thank you, Amy. Next up, Eugene Yu for second vice chair.
Thank you. That was a good tie-in, Amy. It was a little bit over a year ago that this is going to be a kind of a personal speech, but it was a little over a year ago that I ended up in the hospital. And I remember that because that's when we had elections last year. And thank you for voting for me for treasurer last year. I had no idea at the time that I'd be in the hospital for 6 months, but I got out. And, during my time there, I really thought about what was important. And it's times like that that really make you think. And I realized that, what I do with community board is really important. I think what we do is, very impactful. All politics is local, and this is as local as you can get. And I am, I'm back, I'm recovering, and I would love to be able to be your second vice chair. And, I'll bring my energy to the job and try and make things move more smoothly. And I'd like to give it my all. So thank you. I look forward to your vote.
Thank you, Eugene. Valerie De La Rosa, first vice chair.
Thank you. Hello, CB2 board members. Thank you for your trust in me as an officer over the past 2 years as second vice chair. I look forward to continue working with you this time as the first vice chair. I am humbled by how welcoming and open each of you have been. I've been on the board since 2018, and I continue to learn more about the community, about different way things work in the city, and you've really made this a very fulfilling experience. My door is open, and I look forward to working with each of you in this new capacity. And I'm really excited about working with this group that's been nominated, and hopefully we'll have an assistant secretary join the gang within the next month or so. But, one of the big reasons is that, Susan has really stressed all of us working as a team together with this slate of officers. So I'm really excited to do the work and to continue doing the work. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Valerie. And last but not least, Susan Kent, who is running for chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Valerie, for your belief in this group of people. They're a very talented, committed group of officers, it looks like we will have. I have been on this board, this is my 17th year, and I must say that while at times it is frustrating, it is always rewarding. This is an amazing body, and it is made up of amazing people because you show up, you care, in a world where everyone seems to be so selfish. This is a group of people who are giving back and making their community better, and it is an honor to be a part of it. Frankly, I think maybe the most intimidating thing about being the next chair is that it is going to be it is a tough act to follow. The highest regard for Janine, not only as a chair, but as a friend and as a guide. And I want to thank, I have had the chance to talk to many of you in the last month or so. I appreciate the time and the feedback that you've been giving me. And I will try to reach those of you whom I have not yet made contact with. I do want to hear from people. I want to, I'm always looking for ways to improve. Sometimes it's just the little things, but it's an exciting opportunity, and all I can say is, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Susan. Mark, do you want to just jump in and talk about how we need to vote now?
Sure thing. So first of all, I omitted a word of thanks to our tally committee. The tally committee is prescribed in the bylaws, and it consists of the borough president's representatives. So Andrew Chang, thank you for doing that. A representative of one of our elected officials. So Patrice Comerford is filling in that role from Councilmember Botcher's office. Thank you. And one of the committee chairs, and the first one I asked said yes, so I didn't have to shop. So thank you, Patricia Laredo. And there is a spreadsheet that is available. You may vote. Please, you should all have received the ballot by now in your email. So now is a good time to check. And you will see that there are a couple of, you'll scroll down to get your name. You enter the email so that we know it really is you. You'll then please enter the security code, which was delivered to us by the National Security Administration. It's highly technical. And then you will vote on each item. So each office is its own item. You don't have to vote for the person nominated. There is an abstain button in each one. You are required to either vote for a person or the abstain, and then you may click submit. I guess the first thing to ask by raising your hand is whether there's anybody on this screen who has not received the ballot.
Mark, can you share what time the secret code number went out for each person?
It went out this afternoon with the board package.
Okay. What time was that?
I will get you. It was around 4:30, but let me get the exact time.
4:52, I think.
That's what I have too, 4:52.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I don't have that, but I'm glad you do, so we'll go with that.
Okay.
I have a question.
And I'm going to put my my cell phone number in the chat. And if you don't have it, text me and I will get it to you. Question, please.
Should I do this offline? There's a mess up with my email.
Sure.
Should I call you? I'll call you.
Yep, my phone number is now in the chat. Natasha has a question.
So I was able to vote. I just didn't need a password. Is that, you had mentioned that you needed a password?
Well, let me see if your vote was
Yeah,
recorded.
if you go to 452, the email you received at 452, Natasha, that has the board package in it, it has that code in it.
No, I have the password. I just didn't need a password to do my vote. But so I just hopefully I did the right thing. Not sure if others need it too.
Your vote has been registered, so I guess the answer to that is yes. I'm receiving this call in private, so I will mute myself for a minute to try to answer that person's question, and then I'll be right back to you.
Is this the window in which we vote?
You should vote now.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any more questions?
And you should get a confirmation email. That's how you know that it worked.
Excuse me, I did not receive it, Michael Levine.
You didn't receive the ballot or the code?
The ballot.
Okay. So Michael Levine needs to see the ballot, and if you could just resend the code to resend the code to everyone, I think that would be helpful too.
And I voted, and
Here.
then it says that it cannot connect to
Here it is.
RE CAPTCHA.
The link.
Okay,
That's-
we got it. We got it now.
Janine,
Yeah,
it's Bo. I have a ballot. I got the code and everything, but the ballot is dead. It's not active.
okay.
I tried several things, but it didn't come
Please
back.
use this ballot to vote for the election.
Okay, now, yeah.
Go down, go up.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do is mark, I think everyone who has,
Michael Levine.
Right.
if everybody could,
What email is this? What
okay,
is this?
can you, Ed, can you mute yourself?
Wait.
Board members who are having technical difficulties, please raise your hand and Mark or somebody from the committee will reach out to you. And then we're gonna, while we're working on the technical issues, we will move to the standing committee reports. If that's just so we can do two things at once, if that's possible. And before we start with the standing committee reports, I want to propose an amendment to the agenda that we adopted earlier. We'll insert item 1.5. We'll do cannabis licensing committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions, recusals? Okay. So we're going to start with Mar Fitzgerald, Equity, Race, and Justice Committee, and we're going to meanwhile be working on people who are having technical difficulties. Mar, I'm going to turn it over to you. Mar, you ready to go?
I was going, but I was muted.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Sorry. So we had a meeting on the 15th, and the topic of which was tableside racism. We examined the prevalence of incidents in our district where customers perceived race or gender identity resulted in inferior, inhospitable, degrading, and sometimes even denial of service. Our guest was Director Daryl Cochran from the New York City Commission on Human Rights, an organization that is charged with enforcement of human rights law in New York City. They do intake of complaints, they do investigations, and they're an all-around great organization. In business session, we discussed writing a resolution to help raise awareness of human rights laws for people in the hospitality environment. We did a lot of research. Director Cochran brought a lot of cases to our awareness, even here in our district. And we talked some about the history, starting with the Julius Sip-In in 1966, where 3 gay gentlemen were denied service when they walked up to the bar and said, "We're gay and we'd like to have a drink." And that ultimately led to legislation and protections. I think the answer at the time was as long as homosexuals are not, are behaving well, they can be served, 1966. But it did lead to better treatment. And again, we're talking about this now. There's a long history in our district. I read a lot of Yelp reviews, a lot of TripAdvisor reviews. I reviewed a lot of cases. Many restaurants and hotels and bars that we know and patronize ourselves. We know owners. These places, many of them have a multitude of accusations and incidents. So we wanted to make sure people knew what their rights were, primarily with signage, right? There's signs in restaurants for everything, pregnancy rights, disability rights. So how come there aren't signs that tell you what your human rights are and that you have a right to be treated fairly and equally? And if you're not, here's who you can call and where you can go to file a complaint. So that's that on that one. We did a second one because it made us think about, our own processes. Are we complicit in this in any way? Are we responsible? Is there anything we could do to make it better to help prevent prejudice? And we realized that the SLA process is flawed in that it asks for so many things. I mean, if people apply with the state for a liquor license, they have to give up every bit of information about themselves.
So Mark, you can just jump to the reading the resolution?
Oh, do you want me to read the whole resolution?
No, just the therefore be it resolved.
All right, so I'll do the therefore be it resolved for the second one,
Yeah.
which is I have the wrong resolution up. Sorry. Where did it go? Sorry. Can't find it.
Good news is I don't see any raised hands anymore, which means hopefully everyone who is having difficulty is in the process of resolving that.
Yeah, I guess I reviewed mine. Here it is. Sorry, I had it up and then it just disappeared. All right. So the therefore be it resolved for the first one is that it's actually really long. Was it really long? Yes. We urge the New York City Commission on Human Rights to create signage for hospitality establishments, restaurants, bars, hotels, to educate the public about their right to equal service and the remedies available to them, as well as the penalties for businesses that violate New York City human rights law, including a list of common forms of discrimination, which we did include at the top of our resolution based on what we heard from committee members, the public, and lawsuits. Resolved, CB2 recommends an increase of funding for the Commission on Human Rights for staff to aid in processing complaints and aid the Law Enforcement Bureau, which is another branch that does in their education and investigative process. Resolved, CB2 urges New York City Commission on Human Rights to make human rights cases and violations data public and to publish a list of businesses that have verified human rights law violations, penalties, and settlements. Require hospitality establishments to post human rights letter grades similar to the Department of Health letter grade. Help prevent discrimination by requiring hospitality establishments to implement dress codes equally for all patrons, regardless of race or sexual orientation, gender identity, or preference, or to prohibit dress codes completely, and to make it illegal for reservation systems to allow, we asked the City of New York, for systems to allow businesses to input information such as age, race, or sexual orientation, gender identity, or preference, because that could be used to discriminate against people. And lastly, we ask for a streamlining of the complaint process via 311. For the SLA resolution, we simply ask, we urge the SLA, state SLA, to solicit human rights data regarding any and all prospective licenses and to take that data into consideration prior to granting a license. And then to direct license applicants, including alterations, any license you would come up for, to include human rights complaints, violations, mediation, or settlements with which they have been involved, past or present, with community boards, along with their 30-day notice. And that's it.
Thank you, Mar. Do we have any questions? Okay, we're going to be using the same voting method we've used for past virtual meetings for almost 3 years.
Carter does have his hand up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a moment. I'm
Oh.
just going to finish reminding. We're going to use the omnibus vote where we, if anyone would like to vote on any item as it is called out, feel free to request to do that. Is there any unwillingness to use the omnibus vote? Okay, seeing none. Carter, your question?
I actually just wanted to put forward an amendment on the first one, on both resolutions. On the first one, under the second whereas, to include in the beginning, while there are many eating and drinking and nightlife establishments within CB2 which are welcoming and serve as a home to many diverse communities, comma, there is insurmountable, and continue on with the rest of it. And I think that's important because our community is actually the beginning of, we have Stonewall here. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, nightlife serves as a home to many people, to go along with this, to is sort of the compare and contrast.
Yes,
So that
thank
was
you.
one.
Carter. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And then
Accepted.
before we move on to the next one, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions, recusals on that? Okay, Carter, your second motion?
Yeah, is actually on this resolution as well.
Oh, I thought you said it was on the second.
No, there are actually three. Sorry, I
Okay,
was
sorry.
trying to do this
Okay.
as
Sorry, I
two.
would, okay.
That's all right.
Carter, can you put that amendment language in the chat when you're done?
Yes, I will.
You'll
Yeah.
need to put, and language in the chat. Thank you.
And then the second part is just in number 5 in the whereas, as in the case of the 1966 Julia Sippin. At the end of that, adding, and this singular event helped precipitate a movement to promote positive change everywhere. Because that's very important movement, but we're using
Positive
it not as
change
a,
everywhere
yeah,
within.
we're
the
using it as a negative.
Hospitality industry, or positive change everywhere in the world?
Just positive, period. Positive change everywhere. And this, it's important because we are the home of these events that have changed things throughout, and I think it's important to acknowledge them in the positive.
Okay. Do we have any questions on that proposed change? Any comments? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions, recusals? Okay. Okay, Carter, your third amendment, proposed amendment.
Make sure I'm unmuted. Okay, and then the third is in the second resolution at the end, where it says be it therefore resolved that CB2 requests the New York State Liquor Authority to direct license applications, and then just strike the including alterations, class changes, corporate changes, endorsement, method of operations, removals, and strike that section, continuing with to include any human rights complaints, violations, mediation, or settlements with which they may have been involved, past or present, and then comma, 2 New York City community boards with their 30-day notice submission. All of those need to submit a 30-day notice, so it would be anybody who has to require a notice to us.
So you're proposing eliminating a clause and changing the word with to 2.
Yes.
That's fine with me.
Okay,
I
but
just,
Mar, there's no friendly amendments. So you can ask.
But we can have discussion. I'd be curious to
Yes,
hear.
we can have discussion. So
no,
I'll let
the
Mar go
logic
first,
behind-
and then we'll go to the raised hands.
The logic behind putting all of them in there was just so it was clear it wasn't just for new licenses. When I read it, I just thought somebody who didn't know would think only for new licenses, and that's why I listed every type. But if you
Okay,
think it's
maybe
superfluous, I'll
better
take it
to
out.
say for any,
I'm happy.
I mean, just saying any 30-day notice is inclusive, because, you know, if the form's changed, whatever it is.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make it more clear.
Okay.
I understand your point, but I think that makes it more confusing, because is it some, is it not others?
Okay. Why don't you guys work out the perfect language while we listen to some of these other comments, because we have 2 comments. Rocio?
Yes, thank you so much for calling on me. So my comment or question is regarding number 1, whereas number 7.
Rocio, can I come back to you, because we're specifically on this motion, the amendment that Carter made to number 2?
Sure.
Okay, and then we'll come back to you as soon as we finish this item of business. Donna, do you have a comment on?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification. The way I'm reading the reso, it says that CB2 requests the New York State Liquor Authority to direct license applicants, not applications. And I believe when Carter read it, he said applications, which makes sense for what followed that we're taking out. So I just want clarity on whether it's applicants or applications.
It's applicants.
It's applicants, okay. Okay, so, my apologies, my computer just crashed. I am back on my phone. So I may have missed. Okay. My apologies. My computer just crashed, so I'm back on my phone. Carter, can you and Mar, did you guys, what is the proposed language you're proposing for the
It's in the
second?
chat.
Okay, so can you just read it out loud for those? There's a few board members who cannot read the chat.
Be it further resolved that CB2 requests that the New York State Liquor Authority to direct licensed applicants to include any human rights complaints, violations, mediation, or settlements with which they have been involved, past or present, to New York City community boards with any 30-day notice submission.
And Mar, you had expressed some concern about removing that, or just change it to with any. You changed it to any 30-day.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an objection at all. I was just explaining the logic. But I also understand Carter's logic with the additional language. We can lose that long line because it is a lot.
Because we've added any. Okay. So is there any questions on this proposed amendment? Rocio, did you have a question on the proposed amendment, or we'll come back to your thing? Is it on the amendment? No. Okay. Okay.
I have a question for number 1.
Yeah, then I'll come back to you. So let's just close out this issue. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, recusals, abstentions? Okay, so let's go to Rocio, who has a question on the first resolution.
Yes, please. Number 1, and is the 7th whereas. It says that one of my land, 2 by C, has been accused of discriminating against Asian customers. My question is, was there a trial? Were they found guilty of this? And if so, then I would say maybe it's okay to add this, but if they're just accused of discrimination, everybody has to be proven guilty before, right? So that it stands as it is. I mean, I wouldn't put this unless they were actually found guilty. What is the case with this one?
The accusations are public information and they are characterized as such. Accusations, multitude of accusations over 12 years by, I mean, dozens, maybe over 100 people. Like, I couldn't even tell you how many there are. There are tons on several different platforms, and they are very specific, and they are over time, and they are from one specific demographic, and they all say the exact same thing. All of these people over many, many years have had the exact same experience at one restaurant. So it's public information. It is characterized as what it is, which is accusations, many, many, many accusations. And that's all we said, which is the truth. So should we hide it because there's been no legal case? It's public information. We talked about it in the meeting, so the information is included.
Great.
Rocio, did that answer your question?
That answered a question. Thank you.
Okay, do you have another
Any more?
question?
Because there are a lot of other restaurants that have
Okay.
accusations
Okay,
too that I know
Mar,
you're
let's just,
familiar with.
Mar, we have Valerie has a question or comment. Valerie?
Yeah, thank you. I was just, to Rocio's point, which she was saying, in the reso in number 6, that's a statement of fact, right? That the Commission on Human Rights investigated and this was the fine paid. Whereas number 7, which is the whereas, we're calling out a restaurant just from a press piece. So maybe, do we need to have a position on this by calling out something that's been speculated versus the Gansevoort Hotel, which has been documented, this is the fine, and it's a statement of fact. I'm just kind of throwing it out there for discussion.
Yeah.
I do support this resolution, but just throwing that out there to Rocio's point, it made me think about that.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
It was,
But Mar, let's just take the questions. Matt?
I was just going to raise that while people are innocent beyond, until they're proven guilty for criminal punishment, certainly community opposition doesn't have that bar. And I think, a large number of well-documented accusations, I don't think is speculation. I think it's well-documented accusations. So I would encourage the text to remain as is. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Shirley Secunda?
Yeah, is it possible to just simply refer to some of the well-documented?
I think they're footnoted. I believe they're footnoted.
Okay, oh, they are footnoted.
It's
Yeah.
just, and I would just suggest that the font is super, super tiny, so maybe we make the footnotes a little bigger before they go out.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that would.
yeah. Brian Pape?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, thank you. I just thought I would make the note from our SLA committee meeting that we have a new proprietor at One If by Land and Two by Sea. So it's under new management, new ownership. So that's hopefully going to change things there. And I'm wondering why we're calling out just one. Thank you.
Mar?
we called out many. And yes, I'm aware that there is a new proprietor. I was not at the SLA meeting regarding that one, but that application, but I also did a deep dive into that new owner. So this information is still relevant, whether it's a new owner or an old owner, because it's the history of the space. And there's I feel a responsibility as a member of the board to ask that question. If we have a restaurant or an establishment or a business that we know has a history of discriminating against the public, even if a new owner comes in, we have a responsibility to ask that question, you know, what are you doing to make this better?
Okay.
Where do you stand on this? At least give them an opportunity to address the issue.
Okay.
To answer the other question, and again, we spoke about many establishments. We talked about many times this has come up at SLA when applicants came and we asked
Mar, we're
about
just
this.
talking specifically about whereas number 6.
Okay, so yeah, it's public information. And if, you know, I think we'd be remiss to exclude the lived experiences of so many of our Asian neighbors and sweep it under the rug.
Okay.
So
Thank you,
I would
Mar.
like to leave that.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments or motions on these resolutions? Carter?
I put all 3 changes in the chat. But I don't, from the message I just got back when I tried to put everyone, is that I can't post it so the attendees can see it.
That's because we turned off the chat for during business session for attendees.
Right, but they also can't see the business we're conducting is more my point. Because we're using it to put it in there.
Okay, well, if you want to put it in a Word document, we can share the screen, but I can't imagine it will be up long enough for people to see. And you did read it out, so I think that's when we don't normally print out. When we met in person, we just read it out. We didn't hand out pieces of paper around the room. And would you feel more comfortable reading it out all again?
Oh, no, I'm just saying that if we're utilizing the chat, they can't see it. So if people want to see it, I'm just ongoing complaints, you know, and people, it's helpful for people who can't hear, et cetera. So.
Okay. Mark Diller?
I can copy it and then make it so that everybody can see it, even if they can't respond to it. Is that useful?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Why don't you do that, Mark? That would be
Very
great.
good, thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Seeing no more questions and hearing no more motions, is there any objection to moving Equity, Race, and Justice Resolution 1 and 2 as amended into the omnibus vote? Okay, seeing none, we will move these 2 resolutions into the omnibus vote. Mar, if you could take us through Cannabis Licensing Committee. The report was sent out separately. Mar submitted it several days ago, but because it was a report, not a resolution, it did not make it into the package. So I'm going to turn, Mar, if you could address that. Does anyone need a copy of that? We can resend it. Okay, Mar, go ahead.
So I also realized that I already reported on the SMACT alteration in last month's full board package. So I'm speaking specifically about the letter, which we didn't vote on a letter. We voted on the spirit of a letter. But the honest goodness truth is we just couldn't get it together to get it all done and all the edits that were discussed. And we had missed the deadline anyway. So
just the deadline was before our full board meeting, correct?
Yeah, it was. I thought I could get it in under the wire, but the rest of the work that it required, we just lost too much time.
Okay,
that's all.
Okay. And Mar, will there be other opportunities possibly in the future for us to submit comments as a board? Mar, did you hear my question?
Unmute.
Mar, I think you're muted. If you could unmute, please. Mar, you're muted.
I know. Okay, there. Sorry, I was having a spinny rainbow. So yes, I do think we're going to have another opportunity. I don't know, I feel like these regs are going to be sticky. And so I think we may get another opportunity, but we also get to write resolutions soon, probably every month, because there's a good chance that the remaining 234 licenses may all drop in April for the card program. So I think we're all going to be pretty busy. So there may be another opportunity, but we can write resolutions every month and speak to whatever we want to if we see a hole. I'd also like to share that I am speaking at a CB4 forum on the 30th with the sheriff, Director Dawson, and the OCM on cannabis licensing and enforcement. And I'll put the registration in the chat.
Thank you. Valerie, you have a question, and I think you had a suggestion earlier. This is the time.
Yeah, I just wanted, just because we spent, about 30 minutes talking about this and had voted to send something. And so I just wanted to make a motion that we send this back to committee. That's all. That way it's just transparent that, because again, the vote wasn't in the minutes in February, which I know will be added. And there were 37 people that voted in favor of taking an action on this. So I just would think.
So your motion is to send it back to the committee to,
and then
to in the future comments
Yeah,
on the rules
that's
in
it.
the most appropriate manner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All in favor? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 When opposed? Aye. Okay, any abstentions, recusals? Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. Is there, well, I guess we have this vote. So this motion, which we'll have to, Valerie, if you could put it in the chat and send it to Mark so he can put it in the chat for everyone. We will move that motion into the omnibus vote. Is there any unwillingness to vote on it? I guess we voted on it, so we don't need to move it into the omnibus. It's done. So great. Next up is schools and education, Patricia Laria.
Yes, hello. We met this month and talked about asylum seeking students, and we came up with this resolution called Resolution to Support the Needs of Asylum Seeking Students in Community District 2. Therefore be it resolved that CB2 urgently implores the DOE to apply SAM 65 funding to provide additional immediate social, emotional, curricular, and extracurricular support to new multilingual learners, including a per diem or per session staff. The DOE to allow principals to use SAM 65 to hire permanent staff, DOE to provide full ongoing funding to schools for asylum-seeking students regardless of enrollment date, DOE to develop a comprehensive plan for schools that enroll students from families seeking asylum and develop and implement a plan to provide schools with full FSF for these students now, so principals can hire the necessary teachers, social workers, and support staff, including coaching, professional development, sharing of best practices to help schools spend those resources as well as pre-existing ones most effectively. 5, the DOE immediately to assign a minimum of 2 social workers at each school to provide trauma-based therapeutic services and case management needed to ensure student families are connected to needed services and support systems. 6, the DOE to implement and fully fund a wait for students in temporary housing, as well as a concentration wait, which would provide additional funding to schools with the highest concentration of needs, including students experiencing poverty, students with disabilities, English language learners, students in temporary housing, and students in foster care, waits that do not currently exist in the Fair Student Funding formula. DOE to work with New York City Public Library to automatically issue library cards to asylum-seeking students upon enrollment, including library service offerings and directions to libraries nearest the school and students, residents in their native language so they can independently access resources. The Office of Language Access to provide free written translation to connect schools and central offices with free over the phone and on-site remote interpretation services as needed, including at least one Language Access Coordinator, who has completed training on translation and interpretation services for families and providing all schools with field language access coordinators with OLA to assist with translation and interpretation support. The DOE to provide a resource guide to all New York City schools with a direct contact list of relevant city agencies. I have to get rid of the other one, the other word agency, CBOs and phone numbers to help school administrators and teachers assist asylum seeking families. Department of Homeless Services, Human Resources Administration, and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs work together to identify CBOs that can adequately provide asylum seeking families with basic needs, clothing, fresh hot food, shelter, transition supports, jobs, English language lessons, access to appropriate benefits, and ensure those services are deployed. The DOE to partner with NYU Dental to provide ongoing care to asylum seeking students in temporary housing. OPT and DOE immediately provide Metro cards to all asylum seeking students and families as specified in the transportation section of the Project Open Arms. The DOE and OPT arranged yellow bus service for all students that qualify, including information on establishing new bus routes, help assessing and filling out busing exemption forms, and any other required paperwork. DOE identify, fully fund, and secure CBO partners to address the shortfall of before and after school seats to accommodate asylum seeking students. The DOE expand the 2023 Summer Rising program to accommodate asylum seeking students, including information and application help, programming in their native language. And 16, the DOE provide asylum seeking students with the clear information and timeline for required immunizations, as well as a list of providers and help securing appointments. And be it finally resolved that CB2 urges the enrollment method DOE is using to place newcomer students in schools should take both student and family needs and school capacity, programming, and funding into consideration moving forward, including increased transparency in the student intake process, the methods used to determine where students are placed, the screens DOE is using to assess students' academic, mental health, and other needs, and the work being done to enable schools to meet those needs. And the vote was unanimous in favor.
Thank you, Patricia. Do we have any questions? I don't see any questions. Is there any objection to moving Schools and Education Resolution 1 into the omnibus vote? Okay, seeing none, we will move this one resolution into the omnibus vote. At this time, board members can call their vote separately if they choose to do so. Will Banish, quality of life?
Thanks, Janine. We had 12 resolutions, 3 street activities, 8 FYI renewals, and 1 additional resolution. I'll go through quickly in order. The first was March 14th through 16th, Valentino Soho event, 135 Spring Street between Green and Worcester. That was unanimous approve. Number 2 was April 27th, setup, April 28th through 30th, run time, and then breakdown on May 1st. Armati Beauty pop-up on the Gansevoort Pedestrian Plaza. That was a unanimous denial, in line with sort of previous denials of advertising events on the plaza. 3 was the Micro-Mobility Festival, April 18th, West 4th between Green and Washington Square East. That was a unanimous approval with 1 recusal from our public member, Joanna Lawton. We had 8 FYI renewals. I won't read all of those out. Those are listed as 4 through 11. These are all repeat events. These were approved unanimously. And then our final resolution is continuing with sort of our theme of studying resiliency and responding to the Army Corps proposal. This is a resolution in response to a letter from Hudson River Park Advisory Council, which is calling for a task force to address resiliency, infrastructure, and environmental related challenges facing the future of the West Side waterfront. So this was a letter that was already sent out by the Advisory Council to Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams, calling for such a task force to be established. You can read through the resolution. We've listed sort of the reasons why we think such a task force should be put together, including the fact that the U.S. Army Corps study is very narrow in focus and isn't really considering any second order effects to what they've currently proposed in the area, which is a 12-foot wall. So I'll read the therefore be it resolves. Therefore be it resolved that CB2 Manhattan supports in concept the creation of a task force to address the range of issues and topics which face the future of the West Side. Therefore, be it further resolved that CB2 Manhattan believes that it is critical that any such task force include a leading role for CB2 and other community boards along the West Side, be transparently run with significant and creative opportunities for public engagement, and be dynamic to allow for efficiency and adaptability as the task force moves forward.
And that's unanimous.
That was unanimous.
Okay, fantastic. Do we have any questions or comments? Katie?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I want to thank William and your committee for the really great resolution on resiliency. As many of you know, I live very close to one door away from the river. So this is an extremely important issue, and I'm so glad that we're tackling it head on. Thank you, William.
Thank you.
Frederica?
Yeah, Will, you have, I think, a useful matrix or template that your committee uses for determining the suitability of events on the plazas. Could you just speak to how the one that you denied didn't meet the grade?
Yeah, so some of the main considerations in that matrix are connection to the community, as well as any educational or cultural value. And I think we put in one of our whereases that we didn't really see that for this event for either of those metrics. So while some of the other metrics which touched on, impact, closing the plaza, et cetera, this one was only taking up half the plaza, so it was better in that metric. But it didn't really have any value on the cultural, educational, or connection to community side of things.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there any objection to moving quality of life 1 through 3, FY renewals 4 through 11, and the resiliency resolution number 12 into the omnibus? Seeing none, we will move these items into the omnibus vote. At this time, board members can call out their votes separately if they choose to do so. Next up is Chenault Spence, Landmarks.
We had 2 meetings. Everything was unanimous in both of them. First meeting, 391 6th Avenue, applications to install signage. What sounded like a very technical size of a logo turned out to be more important than it seemed. And it was simply one of these situations of the logo is what it is for the company wherever they are, and no consideration was given to the fact that they're in a landmark district. Therefore, be it resolved that CB2 Manhattan recommends denial of the application to have a large lettering on a band sign than is permitted by applicable regulations. 101 Green Street, application to replace existing banner sign with a flag. Interestingly, the banner sign in question that's being replaced is one for which we recommended denial some years ago. Therefore, be it resolved that CB2 Manhattan recommends approval of the proposed flag, provided that LPC staff verify that it conforms to the regulations for the building of the district. 350 Bleecker Street, application to paint the storefront portion of the facade of white color to install a bracket sign and signage with polished gold finish. This was a return. Certain things had been asked. Modifications were done, but it really, on close inspection, just was not satisfactory. There are a number of whereases to justify our rather large denial. Denial of the white painted facade and planter box as unacceptable compromise to the integrity of the building, signaled out in the designation report as important to the architectural history of the district that presents an invitation to graffiti. It's well, part of it is a big blank wall that was just painted white like a canvas. That the unpainted original brick be retained and restored. Denial of the larger than permitted sign with shiny letters, and that the existing sign of the permitted size with matte gold letters be retained, provided that LBC verifies that it conforms to regulations for the building of the district. Approval of the modest lettering applied to the windows on either side of the door. 27 Bethune Street. Restore the front facade, build a new 2-story extension in the rear, rebuild the second and third floors at the rear facade, add a new non-visible skylight to the front part of the pitched roof, alter the back half of the pitched roof, adding a dormer and small roof terrace. This is one of the more in sympathy with the building rear rebuildings that we've seen in some time. Approval of the restoration of the front facade entrance and the replacement of the door to be approved, providing that the existing door is beyond repair. Approval of the entrance lighting fixtures, provided that LBC verify that they are of an appropriate design for the building. Approval of the skylight, the rear extension, the recladding of the rear facade, and the rear dormer windows. Unanimous. I might say that the next to the last, LPC approving the light fixture. Certain things come to us and they're just not worth asking the applicant to return. In that case, we ask staff to sort of reinforce what we said and ensure that what we said is done. There was one withdrawal. Shall I go on, or do you want to manage this one first, Janine?
Yes, it looks like we have a hand raised. Susan, do you have a comment or question on Landmarks 1? Susan Gammy?
Sorry, just a little typo on Bethune Street, whereas D, lighting fixtures at the entrance were not specifically shown at the presentation, not are the presentation. So it's just a typo.
Thank you, Susan.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments on Landmarks 1? Susan, did you have another comment? No, you put your hand up. Okay. Any objection to moving Landmarks 1, items 1 through 4 into the omnibus? Seeing none, we'll move those there. We can vote on them separately at that time if we choose, if anyone chooses to do so. Chanel, why don't you take us through Landmarks 2? Thank you.
Okay, one moment. Sorry, I will just be a moment. Susan, do you have 2 handy? I have mislabeled a second copy of 1 as 2.
Yeah, I've got it. I can take it from here.
Okay.
Okay, the first application was 29 East 4th Street. It was a presentation on the reconstruction of the Merchants House Museum, exterior masonry and stoop stairs and sidewalk. You'll see a summary of the presentation in the reso. There isn't, we simply expressed ongoing concern for both the current structural issues in the building and how the building may be structurally compromised by any future construction at the west side of the Merchants House Museum. And we expressed that we are in full support of efforts to preserve and maintain this important architectural gem. Second, on at our meeting was 260 West 11th Street. Application is to construct a rear yard addition, enclose a rear terrace, modify openings in the rear facade, add a canopy, deck, and garden stairs to the rear facade, and replace rooftop condenser units. Therefore, be it resolved that CB2 recommends approval of the modification of the rear extension and the rooftop condenser units. And 178 Spring Street, application is to replace storefront infill and to construct a roof deck and replace the stair bulkhead. Therefore, be it resolved that CB2 Manhattan recommends a denial of the application and that the applicant return to the community board for a public hearing with a revised design addressing the disharmonious ground floor as described above in the whereases. B, that the roof railing be in metal, characteristic of the district, rather than the reflective glass. And C, approval of the raised parapet and the proposed stair bulkhead. All of these were unanimous.
Just one clarification, the Merchant's House was simply a report because we don't pass judgment on city activities. And they're presenting, they often come to us and we often comment, and sometimes to good ends, sometimes not.
Thank you for that clarification, Chanel. Any questions? I don't see any hands. Any objection to moving? We're going to just move items 2 and 3 into the omnibus since one is a report. Any objection to moving these 2 items into the omnibus vote? Seeing none, we'll move these 2 items into the omnibus vote. At this time, board members can call out their vote separately if they choose to do so. Next up is joint meeting with Traffic and Transportation and Parks and Waterfront. Shirley Secunda, Rich Cacapolo.
Okay. So we had 3 resolutions, all unanimously approved. Resolution number 1 was in response to presentations of projects for a new Canal Street substation by MTA and New York City Transit, and a new sewage pump station at Canal and Sullivan by DEP, and considering impacts with other concurrent projects in the vicinity. Therefore, be it resolved. CB2 thanks both NYCT and DEP for presenting their projects on NYCT's new substation that will bring better, more frequent, reliable subway service with an increased power capacity by 5 trains per hour. And DEP's new pump station that will meet updated standards of safety, efficiency, and resiliency, routing wastewater and stormwater from the Soho community, and for the opportunity to be informed and comment on these projects. Further, we strongly urge NYCT, DEP, Taconic, Nuveen, Trinity developers, Port Authority, DPR, and DOT to work together in developing and executing a scheduling plan and necessary adjustments in schedules and activities for the smoothest, least intrusive implementation of not only the substation and pump station, but also the building construction at 76 Varick Street and other projects occurring in the vicinity within the corresponding timeframes in question, and to consult on a regular basis to ensure continued attention to avoiding conflicts and other negative impacts during the course of their operations. Finally, we ask that the involved agencies and entities return to CB2 as soon as possible, present the plan they've worked out for scheduling and coordinating their activities as they implement their projects in the Canal, Grand, Thompson, Varick Street, and 6th Avenue area. Okay, number 2. Oh boy, I'm getting rid of that noise. Okay, second resolution is in response to an update on the MTA's agreement in a class action settlement to make 95% of subway stations ADA accessible by 2055. Okay, resolved. CB2 welcomes the prospect of increased availability of ADA access to subway stations after more than 30 years since the passage of the American with Disability Act, ADA, and hopes that as work in advancing accessibility progresses, there will be opportunities to shorten the timetable for completion of these efforts. Further resolved, we fully support procurement activities by MTA New York City Transit that would entail contracts for building and installing subway elevators that also include provisions requiring maintenance of these elevators for a defined and lengthy period of time, preferably the estimated typical life of an elevator. Further, we thank MTA NYCT for presenting information on its agreement to increase subway accessibility, for answering our many questions, and for showing their willingness to come back again and provide additional information if needed. Finally, CB2 would appreciate and requests that MTA NYCT return in the near future to address opportunities for expanding these accessibility projects to subway stations in Community District 2 and looks forward to potential collaborations, we hope. Okay, number 3. This is a resolution requesting timely inclusion of CB2 bus routes in the upcoming expansion of the MTA NYCT's pilot program, providing designated space on buses to accommodate strollers. Be it resolved, therefore, CB2 supports the bus open stroller pilot and the MTA's plans for expansion. Further, CB2 asks the MTA to include bus routes within Community District 2 for the bus open stroller pilot expansion. The following bus routes are recommended and requested in order of preference based on the latest ridership data available and reach within the district. So on the M14, SBS D, M103, and M1. Finally, CB2 asks that the bus open stroller pilot be expanded into Community District 2 as soon as possible to accommodate the urgent needs of CB2's many families with small children. And I just want to extend thanks to Natasha for her work with this on this resolution. This last
And thank you, Shirley, for carrying the effort through on the joint, or for really running with this on the committee meeting, joint committee meeting.
Thank you, Rich, for your collaboration.
And I just want to highlight that and thank you for giving another committee member the opportunity to write a resolution and build the expertise that our board is going to need. And thank you, Natasha. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, do we have any objection to moving the joint T&T and parks items 1 through 3 into the omnibus vote? Seeing none, we'll move these 3 resolutions into the omnibus vote. At this time, board members can call their vote separately if they choose to do so. Moving on to SLA 1 and 2. Donna?
Okay. Yep. So SLA 1, we had 18 applications and 10 resolutions, and all the decisions this month were unanimous. The first one, New York chapter of the American Institute of Architects, 536 LaGuardia Place, also known as 534 LaGuardia Place. That's an existing on-premise for a tavern. It's just a corporate change. They have a new director, deny unless with stipulations, unanimous 5-0. Unregular Bakery LLC, doing business as Unregular Forno at 124 4th Avenue. That's a restaurant wine, deny unless with stipulations. That was unanimous 5-0. Kazumi Yamakasi, 31 West 8th Street. That's a new tavern wine for restaurant. It's previously unlicensed location, and that's deny unless with stipulations 5-0. Shiki Yamakasi, doing business as Shiki Yamakasi at 71 West Houston Street. That's a new restaurant wine in a previously unlicensed location. Deny unless with stipulations unanimous. The same operator was with us a year or so ago, with similar operation next door. NoHo Cultural Society, doing business as Zero Bond at Zero Bond, also known as 670 Broadway. That's an existing club liquor for members only. This is alteration and a change in method of operation. The committee voted to deny with a path and the applicant. agreed to the pass, so this is now deny unless with stipulations, unanimous, 6-0. 45 Mercer Restaurant LLC, doing business as Galley. 45 Mercer, existing on-premise for restaurant. This is an alteration and a change in method of operation. Deny unless with stipulations, unanimous, 6-0. Like-Minded Hospitality LLC, doing business as Rossioli, 43 McDougal Street. This is a restaurant wine application. They laid over after the meeting to amend the application, so they'll be coming back to us next month and we'll have a vote then. El Pride, doing business as Dante at 8385 McDougal Street at the North Store, on premise for restaurant. This is deny unless with stipulations, unanimous, 6-0. Carmencita Restaurante at 529 Broome Street, also known as 116 Avenue of the Americas, the downstairs space. This is an on-premise for a restaurant, deny unanimous, 6-0. Gucci Osteria US LLC, doing business as Gucci, 375 West Broadway, also known as 63 Worcester. This is a new on-premise for tavern in a previously unlicensed, and this was also deny unless with stipulation, 6-0. Items 11 through 18 were either laid over or withdrawn. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Donna. Michael Levine?
Yes, could you repeat your recommendation for zero bond? We heard a lot in the public session about neighbors objecting to it. You went a little bit fast. Could you repeat again the recommendation from the committee on zero bond?
The committee initially voted to deny the application with a path, meaning there were certain conditions we wanted to have on there, and the applicant agreed to that. And so we handed them stipulations. They have signed stipulations. And so we have a deny unless with the stipulation signed.
And does that mean no serving of liquor on the roof?
No, that does not mean that.
So they may still decide to apply for that. Is that correct?
If you read the resolution, they have service of liquor on the roof with hours from 10 in the morning until 10 p.m. in the evening.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any other questions or comments on these resolutions? Okay. Seeing none, I don't see any other hands. Is there any objection to moving SLA 1 items 1 through 10 and laid over withdrawn and did not appear 11 through 18 into the omnibus vote? Seeing none, we'll move these items into the omnibus vote, and at this time, board members can call out their votes separately if they choose to do so. Before SLA 2, we're going to have Andrew Chang give the borough president's report. We had expected him to come, which is why Andrew did not present earlier, but he is going to be unable to make it. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. And I believe we're pretty much done paneling as well. Mark will make that announcement soon. Mark Diller, that is. So I guess for the Borough Press report, thank you to those who attended our Women's History Month event last night. It was at the Roosevelt House Public Policy Institute at Hunter College. We honored women who work in health and mental health care. As Janine mentioned earlier, the deadline to apply or reapply for your local Manhattan Community Board has been extended to Friday, March 31st. You must be a New York City resident. And as previously mentioned, for those who may not have heard, we released a report on city-owned sites that could be developed into potential affordable housing. And just recently, we released a report on how to deal with scaffolding and sidewalk sheds throughout the city of New York. These sidewalk sheds detract from pedestrian experiences, complicate wayfinding, and are poorly lit and maintained. I will put links to the 2 reports in the chat, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. And thank you for volunteering and staying to help us count votes tonight. Ivy Juan-Arza?
I have a quick question for Andrew. I've known a couple of firms that had contracts for building out for the city for affordable housing, and from this last 2 years, and I've heard that a lot of the contracts have been on hold. And a lot of those design firms or contractors don't know why. Can you give us an idea of why there's a hole or any information?
So it looks like you're referring to certain specific buildings and addresses. If you could send me an email with the exact addresses, I could I can get a better sense of the issue, and I can't
Okay.
say for sure right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Andrew. We're going to move on to SLA 2. Bobby Lee.
Good evening, everyone. Just before I start, I have a big shout out to my co-chair, Donna. Behind the scenes today, there was so much that she did. And there's so much that she's been doing well at SLA 1, the amount of work that she's handling. And big shout out to her. She really is doing a wonderful job. So with that, we had an SLA 2, 20 applications. We're getting a lot of applications now. Out of those 20, we resolved 5. The rest were withdrawals, but mostly layovers to next month. I'll go through each one. Number 1 is GVO Hospitality Corp. Mishnik. 261 Hudson Street. This is an application for a new on-premise liquor license to operate a restaurant. Deny unless with stipulations. Unanimous decision by the committee. Number 2 is 2x Restaurant Group, 1 Up by Land, 17 Barrow Street. This is again a new on-premise liquor license for an existing location that is pretty well known. Deny unless with stipulations. Again, unanimous vote. Number 3 is Emile New York Corp. With no DBA at this point. This is going to be at 637 Hudson Street. Again, another new on-premise license to operate a restaurant in our community board. Deny unless with stipulations. Number 4 is Christopher Street Events, La Tarsi, Supper Club at 105 Christopher Street. This is to operate a new restaurant and also to have private events there in a restaurant setting. Deny unless was the recommendation with stipulations agreed to. Number 5 is Real Muto, 117 7th Avenue South. The DBA is pending. This is the former location of Gourmet Garage. It is fairly large. It's going to be a gelateria and a restaurant in combination. Deny unless with stipulations. And the rest, 6 through 20, are, as I said before, either laid over, withdrawn, or did not show up. That's it.
Okay, you got the short list. Do we have any comments or questions for SLA 2? Ryder?
Yeah, I just want to confirm my understanding is correct. One of these applicants is the business operator that is widely accused of discriminating against our community members. And, per the resolution that we talked about earlier, considering that information in our deliberation seems apropos here, was their record of discriminatory conduct or accusations thereof part of the logic of this deny unless resolution, or how do folks, what do we think about that?
Well, as Brian had indicated earlier, this is a new applicant. I think the accusations, which were not, there was nobody in our SLA committee that was informed of that before the meeting. So we have a new applicant replacing someone who had been there before. So that's where we're at. And that's the best I can tell you at this point. We did not know about it and nobody brought it to our attention.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I don't see any other hands. So if there are any objection to moving SLA 2 items 1 through 5 and 6 through 20 laid over, withdrawn, or did not appear into the omnibus vote? Seeing none, we will move these items into the omnibus vote. At this time, board members can call out their votes separately if they choose to do so. Last committee report is land use and housing. Eugene, you and Katie Bordnero.
Thank you. I'll present for the both of us. Land use had 3 items this month. 2 of them had resolutions. The first was for 110 Waverly Place, which is the location for Babo. They actually, in fact, came before the Land Use Committee in February. We asked them to return in March so that there was sufficient time for outreach in the surrounding neighborhood. And so thank you to Mark and for Stella for doing flyering in and around the block around Babo to make sure that we had coverage and that everyone, the public, knew about the meeting and their application. This was for another 10-year extension of their original variance that was from 2002, and it had been supported in 2002. A 10-year extension was granted in 2013, and they came back before us for another 10-year extension. The application is for continued use of the cellar, ground, and first floors for second cellar, ground, and second floors for the use of the Babo restaurant, which is use group 6A, in contradiction to the area's residential zoning, and also for continued use of a sign that's again in a non-conforming accessory sign, which is outside the Babo sign. So I'll just go ahead and read the therefore be it resolved. Therefore be it resolved that CB2 Manhattan recommends approval of this application for extension of term with the following stipulations. And there's a slight typo here. This is from BSA's resolution, not CB2's resolution. CB2 also had stipulations, but they're more clearly defined in the BSA resolution. But the following stipulations remain in force. 1, that noise and vibration from the HVAC units and other rooftop mechanicals be kept to a minimum and comply with noise code regulations. 2nd, that the use of the front portion of the 2nd floor and the entire 3rd and 4th floors be restricted to residential occupancy. And 3rd, that scheduling of deliveries and trash pickup occur between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Further be it resolved that as a condition for extension of term, the applicant must remove any of the remaining electrical wiring and receptacles from the front side of the building. These are arising from a dining shed that was removed recently, and I believe these have already been removed. So we're just memorializing that it should have been removed for the continued term of variance. The second item was a illustrative zoning analysis for 388 Hudson Street. So this is the site which is divided into north and south portions. We heard last month from Parks on the use of the south side for open space and the discussion there. This month we had Jacob Dukopolsky of WXY Studio come and give an overview of a possible analysis for putting housing on the site. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for putting affordable housing on one of the few open sites in CB2. It is one of 2 only sites that have been identified within Borough President Levine's affordable housing document. And so 388 Hudson has been on the radar for CB2 for quite some time. It's the location for water tunnel shaft 28B as part of the extension of the water tunnels. So for city water tunnel number 3, this gives the DEP access to that water tunnel for maintenance and for upkeep. It is a 25,000 square foot open lot. It's zoned currently M15, and it's within the Greenwich Village Historic District. It is next to City Escrow High School and also across the street from J.J. Walker Park. In 2015, CB2 identified the northern portion of the site for a possible location for new affordable housing. And what was discussed as part of the meeting was the easement DEP has declared that they need a permanent easement of 99,375 square feet on the southern portion of the site. We heard from Parks Department that they had recently said that they need 11,375 square feet, so an additional 2,000 square feet. So that had changed from the original resolution that where DEP claimed they need the 9,300 square feet. And within this analysis, we had a view of the affordable housing that could be built, as well as some options for placing a community facility on the ground floor of this site. There were some comments from the public, including mentions of the murals on the facade, the lot line of the City Esco building. But the consensus from the committee was that the murals should not obstruct any construction of affordable housing on the site. So I wanted to read the therefore be it resolved. It's a pretty straightforward set of points. First, CB2 Manhattan supports maximizing the number of affordable housing units and or the square footage of the building on the northern portion of 388 Hudson Street site. We strongly oppose the construction of any market rate housing on this site, being as this is a city-owned site. We support mixed use and the inclusion of a community facility, preferably a New York City recreation center. Fourth, we support the creation of a master plan that assesses both the affordable housing aspects and the recreational opportunities in the area, including the Dapolito Recreation Center, which is on the block. Fifth, we do support community outreach about the artwork on the side facade of City S School. Sixth, we question the reduction in size of the northern portion. So another way of reading that is we're questioning why DEP is now claiming they need more space than before. And we asked the agency to make public its reasons for increasing the area needed for access on the southern portion before the Parks Department begins its design progress. And seventh, we advise that any scoping should include outreach to and the involvement of local residents, local school communities. It's very important that, the City of School High School, as well as the Manhattan Occupational Trading Center, M721, be included in these conversations, and local businesses. So that is the second resolution. And the third item, there was no resolution from this. It was a presentation of plans for market rate and senior housing at the St. John's Terminal project, with promises from the developers that they would provide ongoing updates as to accessibility on the site, street closures, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. What was the vote on both of the resolutions?
Thank you. Votes for both were unanimous in support.
Thank you, Eugene. I see one hand up, Rocio.
Well, it's great to see you. I'm glad, so happy, Eugene, that you're doing well. Congratulations. And I wanted to say that personally to you. But right now we'll deal with Zoom. When we see you in person, we can all give you a good hug. How's that?
Thank you. Sounds good.
Thank you. So my question is regarding number 110 Waverly Place. In the therefore be resolved with stipulations from 2013 resolutions remaining in place, noise and vibrations from HVAC units and other rooftop mechanics be kept to a minimum with the noise code regulations. So my question basically is, have you still had complaints from the neighbors about this particular issue?
And in fact, no. So this was a point from 2013 that there were complaints, but this is actually a happy case where the restaurant was proactive, did work with the neighbor. In fact, we did reach out to the neighbor that had been at the meeting and been vocal in 2013. And he said that he was happy with the progress. And so this is a good case for the business work with the surrounding neighborhoods. And, there was no objection to the extension of term.
So do you think it's still valuable to keep that in there? Because there haven't been complaints from 2013, so. I was just questioning, I mean, do we still need to rub it in?
That was, so when we did reach out to the neighbor, those were his words. And Katie can opine, because Katie was the one that actually spoke with Mr. Upwell. But I believe he had said that he was fine with it as long as the existing stipulations remain in place. But Katie, if you could jump in.
Sure. Yes, I did speak to the neighbor. It took, the issue was mentioned in 2013. It took a couple years to resolve. I don't think it wasn't resolved immediately. The neighbor works with the owner representative smoothly now, it seems, but he did want the neighbor did want to reiterate the stipulations from before. He felt that it was important to emphasize that what all this progress there'd be no backsliding, I guess is the best thing. So he felt it was important to keep it in there. So we thought that was fine.
And in fact, the applicant was happy with that, with continuing the existing stipulations. And I believe they had also had conversations with the neighbor before coming to community board. And so it seems like parties were happy. Right, and they came before us twice. They came in February, and they were very happy that they came back in March.
Thank you so much, Eugene. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you, Rocio.
Bob Ely?
Yeah, real quick on just the St. John's terminal. Quick question on how do we get access to the Spring Street subway station from all the way over there?
Let's see. So, I think what they mentioned was they're going to add one elevator that goes down to the platform on the western entrance to the station. So that's probably the downtown.
Yeah.
Is that the downtown platform?
Yes,
So it's not as much as we would want, because that station, you can't get to the other side without going up and down a number of stairs.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, this was included in the restrictive declaration associated with the rezoning and put in negotiated by the city council and the applicant. So this was, I'm sure if CB2 was involved in these discussions, we would have wanted access to both sides of the subway.
Thank you.
Kristen Shea?
Hi, yes, I'm actually calling out the Hudson Street space. So thank you, first of all, for the resolution. I thought, it was very well written, and I agree with the need for affordable housing and those points that you made, absolutely. But I also think that we really need park space and open park space in our community, and we are so deprived of quality park space where people can go and sit, and older people can reach, and children can play, and we can get sunlight. I mean, it's just, we are so deprived in this community of open park space, and that space was promised as a park to us. And I think it really emphasized, I mean, we all knew we had not enough park space before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, I think it really emphasized how crucial park space is. And I feel like we've kind of quickly forgotten what it was like when we couldn't go indoors and we needed a place to go, or people needed a place to go. And I think, we do have some quality parks. Obviously, Washington Square Park is the most beautiful park in the city. And, we have Hudson. river, but those places are not really accessible for if you live in certain areas and say you're older or you have a disability or you have very young children to just go play for a little bit or spend a little time in some green space. And again, have sunshine, past 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a winter day. So, I really do, I really wish the city would think more creatively about how to create housing. Maybe it's tax breaks or incentive programs for landlords or tenants, or trying to convert market rate housing into affordable housing through those. Whatever it is, I'd really like to see some creativity instead of building on every last bit of space we have in our community. And then the other point I wanted to make is we did bring to the attention of the city the space as housing, and we did it because we do care. I think I speak for probably every member of the community board. We really do care about housing in our community, and we really want to support affordable housing. But we did it as an exchange with Elizabeth Street Garden, because that was a compromise to be able to support both needs of our community. And, we have a resolution on this board, and I stand by my vote there that would be, the reason to give up this space, because we're gaining other space, but not building on every single space. So I'm going to vote no for the resolution. And I just, really wanted to express, express why. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for your input. Thanks.
Do we have any other questions or comments? I thought I saw another hand go up, but it went down. Okay. Okay. At this point, I don't see any other questions or comments. So, is there any objection to moving land use and housing items 1 and 2 into the omnibus vote? Seeing none, we will move these 2 resolutions into the omnibus vote. We will move to that vote at this point. All the resolutions have been moved into omnibus vote. Let me go over them. We have equity, race, and justice, number 1 and 2. We do not have CLC because we had a motion to send that back to the committee for future meetings, and that we already voted on that. Schools and education, resolution number 1. Quality of life 1 through 3. FYI renewals 4 through 11, and resiliency number 12. Landmarks 1, we have items 1 through 4. Landmarks 2, we have items 2 and 3. Traffic and transportation with parks and waterfront, we have resolutions 1 through 3. SLA 1, we have resolutions 1 through 10. Laid over, withdrawn, or did not appear 11 through 18. SLA 2, we have resolutions 1 through 5. Laid over, withdrawn, or did not appear 6 through 20. And land use and housing, we have resolutions 1 and 2. Is there any question about what we are voting on? I don't see any hands while you guys have got this down. Amy, are you prepared to take the vote? The roll call vote?
Yes, I am.
Okay, why don't we go with that, and then after that, we'll have Mark present about the elections. Amy, go ahead.
Okay. Susanna Aaron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so
Natasha Avanasians?
Yes.
Kayla Askew, I don't think is here. Will Banesh?
Yes.
Okay. Carter Booth?
Yes, and thank you, Janine, for all your hard work as chair.
And Amy, I'm here, Keaton Berger.
Oh, you are. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Yes to all.
Yes to all. Okay,
I'm
got
also in Utah, everybody. I can see mountains with snow out my window, which is why I was late. Sorry.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Katie Bordenaro,
Yes to all.
Anita Brandt,
Yes to all.
Amy Brennan, yes to all. Rich Kekapolo,
Yes to all. One thing I'd like to disclose on the zero bond vote. I'm a member of Zero Bond. I'm a paying member, but I'm not an investor. I don't feel a need to recuse myself on that vote. I just want to disclose I'm a member.
thank you, Rich. Richie Chattree,
Yes to all.
Valerie De La Rosa,
Yes to all. And thank you, Janine.
Chris Dignas,
I'm going to abstain on SLA 2, number 2, and then otherwise, yes to all.
okay, all right. Okay. Okay. Bob Ely,
Yeah, sorry. Yes to all except resolution number 2 of land use. I'm against.
okay. Mara Fitzgerald,
Yes to all except for SLA 1, number 5 and SLA 2, number 2.
SLA 1, number 5, and SLA 2, number 2.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Stella Fitzgerald,
Yes to all.
okay. Cormac Flynn,
Yes to all except land use number 2, no to that.
2. Okay. Susan Gamey,
Yes to all.
okay. David Gruber,
Yes to all.
okay. Wayne Wadler,
Yes to all.
Susan Kent,
Yes to all.
Ryder Kessler,
I'd like to abstain on SLA 2, number 2. Otherwise, yes.
okay. Janine Kiley,
Yes to all, no on SLA 2, number 2.
okay. Ivy Quanars,
Yes to all. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you, Ivy.
Patricia Laria,
Yes to all, and no on SLA 1, number 5, and SLA 2, number 2.
okay. SLA 1, number 5, SLA 2, number 2. Okay. Michael Levine,
Yes to all.
Janet Liff,
Yes to all.
Ed Ma,
Yes to all.
Matt Metzger,
Yes to all, and just out of abundance of caution, I think the cannabis reso got tabled, but just in case I recuse.
okay, it did. Okay. Dan Miller,
Yes to all except land use number 2. That's a no.
okay. Okay, Juan Azorio,
Yes to all except SLA 2, number 2.
okay. Brian Pape,
Yes to all.
okay. Donna Raftery,
Yes to all.
Bo Riccobono,
Yes to all.
I think Zach Roberts is left, right? Okay. Robin Rothstein,
Yes to all.
okay. Rocio Sands,
Yes to all, no to equity, race, and justice, number 1 and number 2.
okay. Shirley Secunda,
Yes to all.
okay. Kristen Shea,
Hi, yes. Oh, hi, yes, to all except for the land use one that I called out. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which number that is.
is that number 2? you.
Thank, okay, thank you.
Janine Hudson, it's number 2. Yeah, thanks.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Frederica Siegel,
Yes to all.
okay, Chanel Spence,
Yes to all.
Susan Wittenberg,
Yes to all.
Anthony Wong,
Yes to all.
okay, Cheryl Wu,
Yes to all.
okay, Eugene Yu,
Yes to all. And thank you, Janine, for your 2 years as chair.
Thank you.
Adam Zeldin,
Yes to all, abstain on SLA 2, number 2.
SLA 2, number 2. Okay. Okay, passes with 32 yeses and, hold on, I'll tell you how many callouts. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 callouts.
Righty. Thank you, Amy. Mark, you want to take it over and give us an update on, share the election results?
I sure will. And I first want to thank Patrice Comerford, Patricia Laraya, and Andrew Chang for sticking with us. And there was a bit of back and forth, but with their good help, we have received votes from every person who was eligible to vote. So I thank the board members for that as well. I do have an indulgence to beg of you, which is that while people who vote by telephone are supposed to announce that before 5 o'clock, that may not have been clear. There was one individual who needed to vote by telephone, and I thank the tally committee for facilitating that. And with your indulgence, I will include that vote in the tally of votes. I can tell you that it would not affect the result if we didn't, but I think it's appropriate that we do. With that, I would congratulate. So the bylaws require that candidates receive a majority of the valid votes of those voting. With that as our standard, I am pleased to congratulate Susan Kent as chair, Valerie De La Rosa as first vice chair. I'm sorry, I have to toggle back to my list here. Eugene Yu as second vice chair, Anthony Wong as treasurer, Amy Brenna as secretary, and I think TBD won out over abstain in the assistant secretary, and all of whom received a commanding majority of the votes cast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone. Do we have any new business? Okay. Also I'm gonna just want to shout out, probably not his most exciting birthday, but it's Carter Booth's birthday today, and he spent his evening on our CB2 board meeting. So happy birthday, Carter. Hope it gets a little more exciting after we adjourn.
Carter.
Thank
with
you.
that, thank you to everyone. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
Janine.
Good night, everyone.
Congratulations,
Thank you, Janine. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Janine. Congratulations, Susan.
Yeah, well done, Susan. Thanks to all officers.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you, Janine.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations to the winners.
Bye.